Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about Crash and Secretary. Hello. Today's podcast is with the great Cate Osborn, aka Catieosaurus. I do have to say, content warning on this episode for adult discussions, because we are discussing, but they're fascinating adult discussions, because we are discussing Crash and Secretary, which are two of the very horniest movies ever made. And Cate is a sex educator, so we get a lot into the topics that are going to be fascinating. Yeah, geez. Well, that's a funny or exploring classic horror and Disney movies. Okay, that's probably the mildest one, but then comparing Secretary and Crash, fantasy and reality and kink representation, the intersection of kink and self-discovery, complexity of kink and consent, trauma and disability on film, cultural commentary on kink and acceptance, the nuances of coming out in kink, contrasting endings, Crash and Secretary, the intersection of kink and consent, the rise of AI in film and content creation, the journey of self-discovery and acceptance, that's nice, navigating personal trauma and storytelling, sound design, that's also, kind of neurodivergence, therapy, AI, kink, neurodivergence, creative expression, navigating kink in real-life relationships, symbolism, family dynamics, body image and representation, and reimagining relationships in a digital age. So, very, very fun episode. Cate is also a longtime theater person. I think she has 2 Shakespeare degrees, if I remember right. So movies and sex are square in her wheelhouse, and so we go deep on these. And so, as I said, these are 2 incredibly horny James Spader movies. She picked Secretary, which I love, and I picked Crash because she hadn't seen it. So this is a great episode because we're both sort of getting into. I think I had seen Crash maybe 1 or 2 times. But it's a true trade movies because neither of us had seen the other movie. So I guess just we'll let you get into the episode and hope you're having a good day.
Throw some colors on the screen and paint me black and white. I want to see a thief in a gunfight or a heroine wounded in love. You can keep her lighted by an old flame left to frame, so I can read the feeling on her face, half in shadow, and know I felt that too. In danger and in love, you've got the dreams I was dreaming of, and I've got 2 hours to pretend. So I watch a movie with a friend. Time's running sideways, and reality's gotta meet me halfway. So I'll meet it here again. Here's the Trading Movies Podcast with friends.
Hello. Hello. Today I'm talking to Cate Osborn, aka Catieosaurus, or as I say, Catieosaurus, who is a certified ADHD sex educator, mental health advocate, full-time content creator. As a professional streamer and TTRPG, tabletop RPG influencer, she is passionate about opening conversations about neurodiversity and accessibility into the gaming community. She hosts the podcast Sorry I Missed This, the Everything Guide to ADHD and Relationships with Cate Osborn, available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. She also hosts Katie and Eric's Infinite Quests, an ADHD adventure with Eric Good, or is it Good or Jude? Good?
Good, yep.
Okay, Good. Which is currently on a hiatus at the moment because big news, Cate and Eric have a book coming out being published by Simon & Schuster called The ADHD Field Guide to Adults that is coming out later this year or early next year? March.
It got moved. March of 2026. March 3rd.
March of 2026. March 3rd of 2026, which I'm excited to read. And it's available for pre-order at all major retailers. Cate has been published in the New York Times, Cosmopolitan, Mashable, and has performed at the Kennedy Center. You can find her on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch at Catieosaurus or Catieosaurus. And you can also go to Catieosaurus/Catieosaurus.com for all links at Catieosaurus.com for all links. Cate, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm impressed that you managed to spell it right. I always spell it wrong, so I get it wrong 100% of the time.
Yeah,
so,
it was a real risk.
You're good. I liked it. You went for it, and I appreciate that about you. It's brave. Hi, I'm really happy to be here. It's me. All of the things you said were true, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is super exciting. So, Cate had gave some very nice feedback on my channel.
Because I'm a huge fan. I want to just say that right away. You are making content that needs to be TikTok premium. Like every time one of your TikToks comes across my page, I'm like, I will stop what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn something and it's going to be fascinating. And I'm going to like look at this movie in a new way. I'm a huge fan of your content. And so, I unapologetically fangirled at you until you paid attention to me. That's how I got here. That's how I
That's
got
so
here.
nice of you to say. Is TikTok is that a thing? TikTok Premium? Is that like
No,
a
it's not.
okay?
But
Okay.
it's like well, now they're trying to make it a thing. Now there's like
Okay.
a thing on the like whatever the creator money making thing. They're
Okay.
like, if you make fancy videos, we'll give you extra money. But no, there's just like a running joke on TikTok about how the good videos should be TikTok Premium. You should be
Okay.
TikTok Premium.
I'm pretty new. I only, I don't know any. My application for monetization got rejected actually. So when I hit 10,000, so I need to figure out how to. I know. I think it's because I wasn't putting my face in my videos.
That's fair.
I think so.
If it makes you feel any better, I've been rejected for verification. I think I'm up to 23 times. So
You're not
they
really
will
Kate.
they will not verify me, despite
Is
the
that
fact
cause
yeah.
like an identity crisis at all?
It doesn't cause me an identity crisis. I just think it's funny because it's been an ongoing joke on TikTok. Like, I'm never going to get verified because they talk about sex and they don't like that. But the problem is that it actually does cause an identity crisis because there are dozens of copycat accounts with
I saw one of the-
hundreds of thousands of followers, and I can't do shit about it.
Yeah, I saw that on one of your videos on Facebook or something. Right? There was like someone.
Yeah, there's like a dude who's been trying to like ransom the like fake Facebook group. He like wants me to pay him like 10 grand, and I'm like, I'm not gonna give you $10,000. Like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. But yeah, it's like a thing that happens to a lot of creators.
Really? Jeez, I should. That's
Yeah, you
not
gotta
good.
watch out. They're gonna come for
Okay.
you. You're gonna be like, they're gonna start making like real shitty movie content. They're gonna be like, let's talk about Biodome with Pauly Shore.
Go ahead. Honestly, yeah, go ahead. That's wild. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It would be fun to have a doppelganger, I guess, for the start. Doppelgang
Yeah.
away, you know?
Yeah,
Or
until they
don't.
start trying to like sell people timeshares and shit. That's when
Oh,
that's
yeah.
when it gets hairy. Yeah.
Yeah, I will never sell a timeshare. So
Yeah,
just
me
if you
either.
hopefully if you listen to this, if I am selling a timeshare, something has gone really bad in my life. Just know that.
So they gone terribly wrong.
Yeah. No offense to anyone who sells timeshares out there.
No,
Or
you're doing a great job.
yeah, you're great. Yeah, so Kate had picked Secretary. So actually Kate
Yeah, I did.
had offered a couple different ones, movies to the premise of the show obviously is like guest picks a movie, I pick a movie. So Kate had suggested I wore my mummy shirt for Kate because she was like, let's talk about the mummy. I would have loved to talk about the mummy. Probably might maybe do an episode on the mummy and Mask of Zorro, like the two.
That feels
Yeah.
really, really good. That feels
Yeah.
good in my heart.
I love that. And then we could also do one actually on the. Have you seen the 1930 something Mummy?
Yes. Yes, I
It's
have.
like a very similar movie.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the new one was like a remake.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like the old Universal horror, like the
Yeah.
Universal classic monsters. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
It's
Did you
it's
see my
pretty-
latest video?
No, not yet, but I will watch it after this.
No, it's
I
fine.
haven't been
You're
on
gonna
TikTok in like a week. Don't judge me.
You're really gonna like it. It's about Universal horrors
Oh, sick.
movies and how they overlap with women's pictures. And
Cool.
the genre I'm calling monster mellow horror because I've
Okay.
got.
I love
yeah.
this for you.
And you can see my.
Yeah.
I got the mummy right.
Have you been to the Universal Horror Nights at Universal Studios?
I haven't been to Universal. I don't think so. I've been there when I was a kid, maybe.
Okay. You should
Yeah.
go. It's really fun. And if you go to the one in California, you can come hang out with me because I live like 10 minutes away from Universal
Okay.
Studios.
Yeah, let's do it.
No,
I'd
it's
love
so
to.
fun. They have like goofy like actors who like walk around dressed like the characters and they're like way too into it because like scare actors are always like really committed. It's great. It's such a good time.
That sounds fun. I've heard that. And is it Knott's Berry Farm out there also supposedly has a good one? I think?
Yeah, Knott's Berry Farm has one, and then Disney does one too. But Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, the only Benny of that is that you get to wear a costume to Disney World.
Okay.
And so I've done that one once, and I was almost not allowed in the park, which is a really fun story. My costume was too good. My costume
Okay.
was too good.
Who were
And
you?
I went as Belle because I was like, I fucking love Disney, right?
Yeah.
And so I went as Belle, and my costume was too good. And they had to like they were like, you cannot take pictures with anyone. If anyone asks, you have to tell them that you do not represent Disney. And I got this like really stern lecture and like
wow.
warnings. And then I went into Disney World, and immediately everybody thought I was the character, and I got like swarmed, and it was really awkward.
That's great.
That's my story.
Yeah, I've never been to Disney. So
It's
that would be-
it's fine.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's fine.
I've never seen. I think I've only ever seen Lion King. I've never seen any of the movies.
Oh my
so.
gosh, that kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
He's like a movie guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, do you want to watch the Disney movies together? I'll show you all the classics.
It's been kind of my grandma, rest her soul, was like an early feminist, and she did not let I don't think she wanted my mom and my uncles to watch them because she thought they gave kids bad impressions of women because they're all princesses. She like had a geology degree in the 40s. Was this like really
that goes like really hard. That's amazing.
Yeah, she was her and my grandpa were both geologists.
Cool.
And yeah, they went all hiking, and yeah, she was like a anti-makeup, like anti-everything person back in the 40s. Yeah. But yeah, so then my mom never showed him to me. She had feuds against my grandma against Nestle because of like the third world stuff, and William Safire of the New York Times, the language guy, she hated him.
Okay.
And Disney. So I've never seen, but I've honestly thought it'd be fun to watch them at some point.
I also feel like watching them as an adult is a really different experience than watching them as a kid. Because like when I was watching them as a kid, I was like, there's musical numbers, there's like adorable talking animals, you know?
Yeah.
But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, she's supposed to be 16 years old? Yikes, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also really interesting to watch, like if you start with like Snow White, which is like the OG, and then you watch them in order, it's really interesting from like a societal perspective of seeing like the feminism shift of like going from Snow White to like Moana, you know, like there's a really interesting, like the girl power starts happening, and it's like, it's subtle at first, but like you can really track that kind of like, okay, we're gonna like turn away from this messaging, that kind of thing. They're always princesses because it's just Disney, but it's really interesting, like just from like that kind of standpoint.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe that'd be that could be a fun series. I mean, it's almost like a joke at this point where I'm like, I kind of want to see how far I can get without watching them. You know, it's like,
I mean, that's also fair. I've never seen an episode of The Simpsons. Like that's my thing, is I've never seen a single episode. And for my mom also wouldn't let me watch it. She was, I think she just thought it was like fart humor or something. And so I do the same thing. I'm like, how long can I go without ever seeing an episode of The Simpsons?
Yeah, that'd be a great, I'm gonna make a note of that. That'd be a great, I know the exact, the one that Conan O'Brien wrote is like the classic. Okay. The monorail one is the monorail. So I'm gonna actually literally take a note. Yeah, that'd be a fun episode. Disney movie plus like maybe a couple Simpsons episodes. Yeah.
And like Friends, that's the other one. I've never seen an episode of Friends.
That I'm not. It's like okay, but
it's fine. I've heard it's like it did not age well. But also Seinfeld? A lot of the Disney Seinfeld. I've seen like a few, like a handful.
Okay, I was just asking. Yeah. Okay, so have you seen The Music Man?
Yes. I grew up on movie musicals. Like that is my favorite genre.
So Marge versus the Monorail, the Simpsons episode, it's like is a parody of The Music Man. So
okay, interesting. Okay,
so it's written by Conan O'Brien, nice. So it's really good.
Robert Preston. I was like, what
Robert
if we hired a guy to be in this movie musical who can't sing a note? What if we did that? What was that?
Well, you got Trouble right there.
Well, you got Trouble. You got to hit that.
Yeah, Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for Preston.
That does. It does.
It's funny you mentioned Disney movies. This is going to be a fun episode to follow along this conversation, folks at home, because I guarantee you there's going to be some tangents here.
Yeah.
So enjoy. Kate picked Secretary, and so what we were saying, so we were going to do The Mummy, The Mask of Zorro, and then I think it was it Woman of the Year or Philadelphia Story?
It was, Philadelphia Story and something, ? I don't remember.
Probably would have done Woman of the Year, because I just got that in, and I
really good.
Love Hepburn. And then, or she said Secretary, and as a ADHD sex educator, I was like, well, definitely let's do Secretary.
Legally qualified to talk about this movie.
Yeah, especially because she hadn't seen Crash.
I'd never seen it.
Yeah, the other sort of iconic James Spader, horny Kink.
Very horny. Arguably more horny than Secretary, but we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah. That is, it's both movies are very horny. I thought it was interesting. Actually, that might be a good question. One thing I noticed, I was trying to write down like similarities and differences, but just as like a quick question on the movies, did you feel that it felt to me like Secretary was much more from a lady's perspective and like a lady's Like, not to get like too gender reductionist here,
No, it's
but
okay.
it felt like Secretary was like, I don't know, like it felt like it was very, like in a positive way, in a way that I necessarily haven't seen in a lot of media.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
way, like female sexuality first, I guess, but
Yeah.
like someone who's
Well,
like very sexual first.
Yeah.
that makes
Well,
sense.
I think one of the things, and I don't know how like quickly you want to jump into like the discussion of the movie, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
But I think like one of the really interesting things about Secretary is that it takes place in the past, right? And the story is being told to us by Lee. And so rather than just like watching this happen, she's telling you about like her internal landscape. She's telling you about like how she feels and the changes that she's going through and these like understandings that she's coming to in herself. Whereas I think Crash is really like male gazy. Like
Yeah.
we talked, like, dear listeners, we talked about this before we started recording, but independently of each other, we started doing tallies during Crash, and like there's a lot of bush
Yeah.
in Crash and there's not in Secretary. There's, you know, like there's like one really pivotal moment of nudity that I will argue actually serves the story really, really well.
Yeah.
But like Crash is just like they open on fucking. Like
Yeah.
it is just a nonstop fuck fest. And so yeah, I think like there's definitely a difference in how like not only sexuality is played, but like the experience of the characters. Like the audience is much more a voyeur in Crash as opposed to like being along with Lee and sympathetic to Lee as she goes through this kind of like journey.
Yeah. Crash is a porno.
Yeah, it's definitely a porno.
Yeah, Crash. It's 100 minutes, and there are, I counted, 13 sex scenes in it. Plane, office, balcony, hand job, airport garage, after airport garage, finger after car, after alpha scene, in car after alpha, sex worker, car wash, after dealership, wound, gay sex in car, lesbian sex in Vaughn's car, final crash. And there are 8 instances, which I don't know, where you see a single tit. For whatever reason, actually
There's
probably
just one
just
single.
one. It's just one tit. And probably actually 9, because when I was clipping the movie after, there's one where she has like an outfit that just shows like kind of one
Yeah,
of the
there's
ladies.
she's got
Yeah.
that like brace that's
Yeah,
just
she's-
like full boob. I'm like,
Yeah.
that seems medically necessary. They just really wanted
Yeah.
to make sure.
Yeah. A lot
Which
of
I have
braces in the-
like a whole side rant about like the disability representation in that movie
I
because it's
can't wait
really
to hear it.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. But
Well, so
again,
yeah,
we'll get
I'm
there.
gonna
We'll get
make
there.
a note on that, because actually, we can just get into it, because I do want to ask about. Let me make a little section for follow-ups here. Because I was thinking about that quite a bit, about the disability aspect. But to your point about the male, or like the question about like the men versus women, now that you mentioned, it's like the perspective, again, not to be like gender reductionist here, but like it kind of matched my experiences as like a dumb guy, in terms of like I feel like I identified like a lot with like James, like, because to your point, I think it's really astute. James Spader is like, in the movie, he is not really understanding much, and he's kind of like slowly processing things, and like, you know, there's a thing I say on my channel a lot, like, and I want to do a whole video on Predator about this, which I think is a very gay movie about guys being unable to express themselves, and there's a lot of that in like action and classic movies.
Yeah.
Spader is not. I don't think he was able to verbalize anything in Crash.
No.
And honestly, not a ton in Secretary as well.
Yeah.
But to your point about like we're hearing it from Maggie Gyllenhaal's side in Secretary, yeah, I guess it like even both like in terms of like, you know, if you wanted to like classically stereotype like like male versus female like sexual energy, it's like Crash has like they're just constantly fucking.
Yeah.
10 sex scenes, but like Secretary, it's like this nice build up where it's like,
oh god,
you know,
it's
like a romance
slowest
novel.
burn. It's the slowest burn. It is an agonizingly slow burn, which I love. I think that's like one of the things that really works well for Secretary.
Yeah.
Like I love that we picked these movies because I really feel like they're like a wine and cheese pairing. Like they're diametrically opposed in so many different ways. But like the way that both of them like approach sex and sexuality is like very different. But if you put them next to each other, like it creates, I think, like a really interesting conversation.
Yeah. I was happy to have the chance to honestly to watch Secretary. It was like I went into it and my buddy watched it with me, and like he's not as big on like movies from the last 20, 25 years, so he was like kind of, and he also is not a big Maggie Gyllenhaal fan. So he was like, but then like we both ended up just loving it, which
Yeah.
was like
She's
super happy to
funny.
watch.
It's a funny
Yeah.
movie. Like I forget how funny that movie is, and then I go back and watch it, and I'm like,
We were
there's a
dying
lot of
laughing.
like physical comedy. Like she's like when she's trying to like climb in the dumpster. It's just like
Yeah.
she's funny. She's very subtly funny. I like it.
Yeah, it's super funny. It's a funny movie. Buddy has like honestly both movies are great for like if you have any type of like texture sensitivity. They're very texture heavy movies, which I think
Yeah.
they both like call out like whiteout can be sexy, and like just sort of like the association between like sex and touching is
Yeah.
probably is like well displayed. I do think to your point about the male gaze versus the female gaze, I would totally agree with you that at least for me when I think I wrote a note about Secretary is that when there finally is nudity at the end, that is probably because I made a couple videos about Christopher Strong, which is like it's shocking to see like that's a movie. Christopher Strong is a movie for the viewers directed by Dorothy Arzner, who's the only woman working in Hollywood in the 30s. And so the movie Christopher Strong has like this really strong female perspective, not in a way that like other movies don't, but in a way that's like super strong of like we probably should have had more than one woman working in Hollywood in the 30s.
Right.
Might have had some more diversity in movies there. But I noticed that like it's just like it was so weird to watch because like I'm so used to watching a lot of 30s and 40s movies, but it's just different. Like the beat, like just the beats and like what she focused on was different. I noticed that in Crash 2, where I think like I've seen so much nudity in 90s 2000s movies, but I haven't seen like one that like I could tell that like there had to have been some ladies involved in like the writing of this or like the direction of this story. Like it was not male gazy. Like I thought it was like the way she was set up like a goddess or something at the end, and it's like
Yeah.
very, you know.
Yeah, like I think if you compare the two movies, I think there's like a what is the word that I specifically wrote down? I wrote down a word about this. But there's like a I don't know. There's like a voyeurism, but there's also like a gratuity to the nudity in Crash, where it's
Yeah.
just like there's gonna be fucking, we're gonna see titties and bush, but
Yeah.
we never see a dick, which I think is really funny. We only
Yeah.
ever see bush, which again, male gazy, right?
Yeah.
But like the thing with Secretary is like Lee Hollowell, the character, like she spends the entire movie quite literally being buttoned up, being covered. She wears these like frumpy ass clothes, and she's very like, and she Maggie Gyllenhaal does this like thing with her shoulders, and then at the end when they sort of have this like big revelation, and she winds up getting together with Mr. Grey because fuck you, E.L. James, for ruining my life for forever. It's like, but like anyway, I get so mad about that, but it's fine. But what that nudity is care. That nudity isn't even really, hold on, my camera's doing that weird tracking thing again. That nudity is care. Like it's not even really sexual, right? Like he's bathing her, and
Yeah.
and there's like that sort of like orchid imagery as well, where like he's caring for her like on this like fresh bed of green grass, and it's like beautiful and intimate. And I think also again having it compared with Crash is really interesting because Crash also talks a lot about scars. Crash also talks a lot about like physical representations of trauma.
Yeah.
And in Crash, like there's literally a scene where like he fucks a scar, which
Yeah.
is like wild to me that was a thing.
I got up from my chair. I was so happy when I saw that. It was like one of my favorite movie going moments.
I was like, oh no. I was like
just-
viscerally uncomfortable.
Oh really?
I was like,
I was just
like,
yelling, get it. I was
like, she didn't consent to that. I was like, I feel like that's going to cause some damage, right? I mean, there's the length of conversation that I have purely about consent in that movie is
I wanted to ask you,
wild.
the car wash scene, right?
Car wash scene.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's really, Crash has some really interesting portrayals of consent, but so does Secretary, because Secretary gets a lot of flack now, like in 2025.
Really?
A lot of people, yeah, there's a big discussion about Secretary. And the biggest thing is because she is in fact a secretary, right? And so like now in the era of like the Me Too movement, there's a lot of conversation about like, is that relationship appropriate? Like he's her boss, she's literally a subordinate.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it appropriate? Does he coerce her or whatever? And I will die on the hill. I will die on the hill that you can't look at that movie as like through that lens. You have to look at it as a fairy tale. You have to look at it as a story, and you have to look at it less as these are two real people to whom this real experience happened, and view it more as an exploration of why someone you know, someone in your town, someone in your community, someone in your life might find their way to kink and BDSM.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at it through that lens, it's like, yeah, people meet each other in different places all the time. But yeah, there's a lot of conversation about like the representation of kink in that movie.
They're both fantasies, I think. And to your point, that was one thing I know. She's like Little Red Riding Hood. As she goes in, she has like that pink. That was like my favorite. I was like, oh, this is like going right there. It reminded me of the movie, another great kind of crazy 90s movies, but Freeway. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Reese Witherspoon. Oh, you're gonna love that.
Okay. I'm gonna write it down.
I'll take a note for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Give me the show notes.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have a whole series on these because
it's gonna be great.
I think you will love Freeway. Reese Witherspoon, and it's she beats up this pedo so bad that like he has like a big like thing in the courthouse, and he's played by Kiefer Sutherland, and it's like this. It's just the craziest like most lurid 90s movie, and the credits are literally like Little Red Riding Hood, and it's like a story. It's like basically a story of Little Red Riding Hood, but she's like this like. She, you know that Cash Me Outside on the girl, yeah, that's her character in the movie basically.
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it's a wild movie. But yeah, it is definitely fantasy. I thought Crash was Crash is ever like when the we were joking when I watched it like a year or two ago. First, that it's like everybody in the movie is David Cronenberg or the like the director. Like everyone in the movie is the same person. There's not a different person, and it's like. That's where I thought it was like I think my first review was like, this is the most kink friendly movie I've ever seen, because it's like everybody in the world is obsessed with has the same kink. It's like, what if you lived in a world where, because even like the funny, I almost threw up laughing last night when I rewound the when they're at the car demonstration show and he's doing the James Dean car crash. The police break it up like it's a regular thing that just happens.
Right. They're like, oh, this like, fucking guy again.
Yeah. God damn it, they're doing another fucking. Yeah.
Well, and even like
show again.
And
you
it's
talked
the
Department of Transportation who's doing it.
Yeah. No, it's the DOT. Run.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
Oh fuck. Yeah. No, but like you mentioned the car wash scene earlier, and that was another one because like and Secretary has the same problem, right? Because Secretary, like they both have this kind of like. I guess everyone's cool with it, ? Because like in Secretary, you see like people are coming in and out of the office. Like there are clients that come in and out of the office, but there's a whole segment where he's got like the framed letters where like she's made mistakes, and you know, like every time she goes into his office she like walks by those, and there's like that plant imagery in the hallway as well. But it's like, so everyone in the office, and there's like the lady who works there who just straight up like hears her masturbating in the stall next to her, and it's just like, okay, it's a Tuesday. So it's like I think both movies kind of present this world where it's like we can kind of have a little bit more openness. We can kind of have a little bit more, you know, like the man at the car wash is not offended that they're just fucking in the back seat of the car wash, like overtly.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Not to get too political on here, but I kind of view it the same way, like the suspension of disbelief, like I have with cop shows, because like my dad's a defense lawyer, and like, you know, the stories I grew up about, like, you know, cops in like the city in Springfield in the 90s, just absolutely wild what they were doing to people. And so, like, I kind of grew up with this healthy shows, but I always love cop shows. But it's like, okay, this is just a fantasy world where there are good detectives. It's like where there are, like, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. It's like, oh, there's cops that, like, do. It's like, I don't think that's, like, a common...
Yeah.
I don't want to get too political, but, you know, it's like it's a fantasy
like
world.
The, like, ACAB thing, but it's like... But also, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I'm like, it's not...
Yeah. Yeah, not
like,
those. This is a
get
fantasy
it,
world,
but like it's a fantasy world, and I think you really have to, for both Crash and Secretary. I think that it's important to have that suspension of disbelief, because I think the exploration in that of the like you're not like, you know, because, and also like at, you know, the end of Crash, not to jump right to it, but like the end of Crash, they're literally fucking in a car crash, and it's like no one cares. Like
Yeah.
there was, you just hit this like truck on your way to like be in this car accident, and now you're fucking on the side of the road, and everybody's just kind of driving by like, have a good day,
Backing
folks.
up on an off ramp.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, and so like there's no real repercussions. There's no real world like effects that, I mean, there's death, I guess.
Yeah.
But like there's this really interesting, I think, exploration of like, but what if everybody was just like DTF? Because in Crash, everybody is down to fuck all the time. Like
Yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas in Secretary, I think it's a lot more about like specifically these two people navigating this like really interesting relationship, but there are still other people involved in the story, and you know, so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it gets really dicey if you try to apply like real world consent modalities to these two very sort of like fictional and exploratory tales of sex and kink.
Yeah. I don't know that James Spader's character, most of the characters in Crash, could probably spell the word sex. Like it's like
they're
an
all
80 IQ.
Yeah, and nobody has a character arc either, which I think is really interesting. Like
porno.
it's nobody learns a single lesson in Crash,
Well-
and I was kind of like, I'd never seen it before,
Yeah.
and so I was like, I was wondering, I was like, where are they going with this? And I was like, oh, they went nowhere with it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I was trying to look for that this time, and ostensibly, I think what they're trying to like, it's like the interpretation I almost had of it this time is like that Elias Codius's character, the Vaughn, who shout out Elias Codius, one of the all-time great performances. He's great in Janet Planet Sopranos if you like that guy. He's and Safe, actually, another great movie. But he's almost like a woodland spirit that's like teaching James Spader how to be an alpha. Like he's like
Right?
to the point about the fairy tale. He's like it's like it's kind of reminding, and I'm going to put that in my recommendations, but there's a movie called The American Friend. I don't know if by Wim Wenders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great movie, and that has my favorite Dennis Hopper performance, where he is he's conning, I think, Bruno Ganz into becoming a hitman because he knows Bruno Ganz just needs to be a friend. Like he just needs a friend, and it's like, this is really not ethical to do.
Yeah,
but it's just like he is trying to be a buddy, and I feel like Vaughn in this is like he's kind of teaching. I think what they're trying to do is like sort of teaching how I can't remember James Spader's name. I think he's the author in this, right? He's just James Ballard, who's yeah, which was based on Crash by J.G. Ballard. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I did like a weird amount of research into Crash after I watched it because it had me fucked up a little bit.
I'm shocked.
And I know, I was like, oh, I came to the podcast with notes and research.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and also a fun fact, did you know that J.G. Ballard said that he liked the movie better than the book?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was
my buddy read another thing by him, and I can't remember the name of it, but he is like a interesting author. And yeah, I could totally understand. Like, I mean, honestly, because it's like, what if you know, if he's, I'm assuming is in the novel, is it also the story is told through the eyes of narrator James Ballard, named after the author himself.
Yeah.
But like, I could kind of see that, because he's like, if he's writing the book, then it's like, yeah, I'd also love to see a movie where a guy named Jeff just gets topped off by a kink for fucking 13 times.
I am currently, this is a true story. So the ADHD book, nonfiction, is coming out in March of 2026. They're already talking about a book 2, which is going to be explicitly about sex and kink and ADHD, like that kind of stuff, like intimacy. But they were like, well, do you have anything else that you want to do? And I was like, I really, really want to do a smut book. And they were like, what kind of smut book do you want? And I was like, dear listeners, if you are familiar with my content, I was like, I want to write a kink book for the burnt out, gifted, and talented submissive brats with praise kink. And currently the first draft of the novel is like, her name's Kate. She really likes Shakespeare. She's famous on the internet. She's going through some stuff. And like, my partners were like, maybe you could at least change the name.
No,
Jesus
you gotta make it like
Christ.
Crash now.
Right? I was like, I'm just gonna be the next J.G. Ballard. Like, and then this very specific thing happened to Kate, who's definitely not me, you guys.
I'll film it, honestly. Let me
That's
call dibs on the movie adaptation.
Listen, that's my dream. Is all I want is like, I keep joking about this, but there's like this little part of me that's like, maybe if you shoot for the stars, you know. But I was like, I want it to be a movie. I want it to be a movie so bad. I want to be the next E.L. James. I just want it. I want it so badly. It is like my number one secret dream. So if that ever happens, I'm going to clip this. And then that way people will be like, oh my God, she finally got her wish.
Yeah, it'll be, yeah, you gotta let me be involved. I could totally make a Crash version of that. Like that would absolutely be
just nonstop fucking.
Yeah, why not?
Like,
you know?
Yeah, it's really weird how many airplanes there are in that movie for no reason.
Well, I think isn't it the wife? I think the wife is she taking pilot lessons maybe?
Yeah, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did, like, honestly, about like halfway through, I was like, I don't think
Yeah.
any of these character details matter at all. Like, I
It doesn't.
don't think
They're all the same character.
they're all the same character. They're all the same person. They're almost like Borg. Like, it feels Borgy. Like, they all just sort of like, they're like in this, like, they're, you know, like, we are Borg. That's what that movie feels like to me. It's just everybody, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's like immediately on board with it. I was like, I'm going to assume that like the tough conversations happen behind closed doors.
Yeah. It reminded me of there's like this, I can't remember which comedian did this joke, but he was like saying he's like a slovenly loser me type, like mid-30s or whatever.
Stop.
And no, I'm not even, but he's like, he was talking about going to like, I think it was like Cinnabon or something. And he just saw the guy who just looked exactly like himself behind there. And he's like, why don't you just eat it? He's like, I don't even need to, he's like, this doesn't even need to be a transaction. It's like, we're the same thing. It's like, whatever the entity is, like, yeah, just you do it.
That's kind of how it feels like in Crash, is especially because there's so many like down the row moments where it's like you've got your hand in her lap and her hand is in his lap and his hand is in her lap. And I'm like, they're Borg. They're Borg.
Is this the first positive portrayal of a poly relationship? I kind of think so.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I spent a really long time thinking about that, because I think yes. Like I think like
say.
It's very porny. It's a very porny movie, but I think especially for a movie that was made in what, like 96, like there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you get open marriage, you get like polyamorous like car crash commune people, you get disability representation, but like as like a sexual entity, which is rare in movies. Like it is.
I really wanted to ask you about
rare.
that. Yeah.
Like it is rare that you see like and honestly like a complexly disabled person. Like but like also like being accommodated. Like he helps her in the car. Like you know like and respectfully, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then also you get like a lot of like really fluid sexuality. Like you get male female, you get female female, you get male male, like you get female female. I think I said that one already, but like you get the spectrum of options, right? You get the parts option.
You even get
like,
you get male wound. Like
you get male wound ?
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting, because especially, and I don't like this kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, but I think like one of the things that I think is really interesting about movies that tend to portray like sex and kink is that people want to view them through the lens of like real life, but in a way that it's like people like we don't have as many discussions about like consent and Star Wars, or like consent and Indiana Jones. And like there's a little bit of conversation around like Indiana Jones, like Marion and like that kind of stuff. Yeah. But like people want the relationships to be consensual. They want that like positive representation of like the negotiation moment and that kind of stuff. And I think like as a sex educator, it's really hard to walk that line, because there's part of me that's like, I think it's amazing that the premise that is being presented by Cronenberg is like this like-minded group of people finds each other, they're sexually open, they're sexually adventurous, there's no like jealousy, there's no like fight over like, well, you slept with this guy. It's just kind of like, yeah, we all like sex, we're all DTF. But then also it's like, but if this is real life, there should be some conversations. There do need to be some negotiations. If you are going to enter a DS dynamic with your boss, there should be some, you know, like maybe there needs to be a conversation with HR. And so like there's that real world element.
I'd love to see that conversation with HR.
Right? Like, so who is the HR department at E.E. Gray, James Gray, or whatever the fuck his name is? Who's the HR department? Is it him?
Probably that lady.
Yeah, the blonde lady.
Just,
she's like,
doing nothing,
masturbating in the bathroom again. I'm not going to tell you what a paralegal is. Fuck you. I'm still mad about that scene. I don't know why, but that scene is so hurtful. Like
that lady sucked. I didn't like that lady.
And then she just disappears out of the movie too, which I think is really funny. Like there, and then she's just not there. I'm like, that's fine. But yeah,
he's an interesting character. To your point about consent, actually, so one thing I noticed on this, I thought it was actually at the end, it was
Of which one?
Of Crash. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Crash, I thought was when they have the final car crash scene, and he runs his wife off the road using Vaughn's car, because he's like, he's sort of like transposed into Vaughn now. He's the guy.
Borg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just became a different,
Got
the same
assimilated.
guy. He does ask her, I think at the end, like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he doesn't start like, having sex with her. This lady who's just been in a fucking NASCAR style car
you
crash.
Good?
Yeah, he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes." And then they start
and
having
then
it.
they bang.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's actually
nice.
Well, in both movies, again, like I think this is such a good wine and cheese pairing, because both movies have really interesting commentaries on nonverbal consent, right? Because we talk a lot about verbal consent, right? Like you always have to get the yes, right? And that's super, super important. But if you've been in a long-term relationship, if you've been with somebody for a while, there is also such a thing as nonverbal consent, right? Like, what is your body doing? What is your face doing? Am I pulling you towards me? Am I pulling you away from me? Like that kind of stuff. And like Crash in particular has a really interesting moment of consent where she unbuckles her seatbelt. She sees that it's him behind her and she unbuckles her seatbelt. And
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
And it's kind of that moment of like opting in to this like super I'm not here to kink shame, but like super fucking weird kink moment, right? This kink scene.
Yeah.
Like casual, but then it's like also, if you want to talk about consent, like he's actively endangering the lives of many other people.
Yeah.
So it's like consent wise, it's deeply problematic no matter.
But again,
like,
in this
how you
world,
look
everyone
at it.
knows.
Yeah, but in this world, everybody's like, oh yeah, those are just the car crash folks. Don't worry about them.
Yeah.
But like the same thing happens in Secretary, like the first sort of moment where like the spanking scene, right? That very pivotal moment of like, okay, now they're like really engaging in this thing. He's like, put your elbows on the desk, put your face close to the piece of paper or whatever. Now that I have the movie memorized, don't even worry about it. But like she has opt-outs. She has several opt-outs. And there's also a couple of moments where he's like, continue, right? But so that's the opt-out, right? Like if she didn't want to continue, she could say no, she could walk out or whatever. And that kind of like non-verbal negotiation that is happening, it's really nuanced, it's really specific. But I think both movies kind of have those little moments of addressing consent in that way, which I think is really interesting for 96 and 2002. Like that's progressive. That's not something that you see a lot.
Yeah, you just made me think actually about the scene, because it was a little confusing on this watch again, and I didn't even remember it from the first watch. But when the cops think that Vaughn has been running like people over or like ran someone over, he's kind of shook. That's like the only time he shook up in the movie, where I think James Spader says he's like Vaughn's a little shook up, and Vaughn alias Codius is like actually a little miffed. I kind of wonder if it's like implying that like he's like, oh, he's sad about like, no, like the cops don't understand, like, no, I would never hit someone who doesn't want to be part of this, or like who didn't want to be part of this, because he does seem at least like he's looking for people interested. I mean, even earlier in the movie I noticed I thought it was, speaking of the consent part, he kind of drops the line about like, oh, like when he's like, oh, it's about body horror, it's about the transformation of bodies and technology. But then like later he's like, nah, I just dropped that shit because it's really about fucking and sucking in cars.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's just kind of like a little drop I use. And so I kind of like, I think he's probably, and like I personally, not with like, not with kink stuff, because I don't know if I've ever had that experience, but like if someone like, I get really upset when people think I'm a film bro, because like I want to be the opposite of that. And so like, I don't like, and because I feel like I've been wounded by film bros, like telling like, just like, don't like, oh, this.
Have you ever seen Reservoir Dogs? It's so good.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like that thing to me is like, oh, you don't understand, I'm this thing, I'm not this thing, right?
Yeah.
But like that is also the like, to if you're like any type of sexual deviancy or like sexual alternative, like it's like I do think it's probably that experience, I think, is like, well, it's like, no, I'm not going to just run over random people. It's like I want to consensually fucking fuck this guy's wife, and also have him fuck me, and also after we have sex he goes in another car and I ram him like 3 times, and that's what I want to do. He's almost like wounded that like they didn't know him, like he's not known,
Yeah. And I think another really good, like that also, there's an echo of that in Secretary as well. The part where her dad winds up in the hospital due to like alcoholism, right? And then and she gets like super upset, and her first instinct is like, so hashtag trigger warning, but like a lot of Secretary surrounds like self-harm and like pain and how we like cope with like big emotions, that kind of thing. And so it's past the point in the movie where she sort of said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this harmful thing. And so she goes to Gray and shows up at his house and is like, needs something. She needs something. She needs this connection, but she doesn't know what it is. And this is so pivotal. She doesn't ask for it. He asks her why she's there. Yeah. And she's, he's like, what are you doing here? What do you need? And she's like, oh, I wanted you to remember to like look at these notes or whatever for work tomorrow. And he shuts the door. He like, because he knows that she's there because like something has gone wrong. He doesn't know what it is, but there's that moment of he is not going to bring her inside unless she specifically opts in. And so that opt in is, I think, a really pivotal thing. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I get, I'm just going to keep repeating and my brain gets stuck sometimes. But yeah, like I think that both movies show this, like, no, I'm not going to do this and harm someone. This is our thing that we are doing for ourselves, but like other people don't need to be involved with it.
Yeah, in Spader and Secretary, there's a lot of shame associated with it.
Oh
like,
my God.
Tons of shame.
The self-shame. And I again, like, I don't know how we're structuring this conversation. It might just be, we might just be like ping-ponging. But however, I think that component of Secretary, of James Spader, like at some point in the movie, he like writes her a letter. Oh, I wrote it down. I think he's like, I'm so sorry. What did he say? He says, I'm disgusting. I don't know why I'm like this. And so you see this sort of portrait, and it's a very common portrait of like a lot of people, I think, in the kink community, like, especially when you don't live a life where you are exposed to kink or, positive portrayals of BDSM, like there is an element of like, what's wrong with me? Why do I want to be spanked? Why do I want to be tied up? Like, am I broken? Is there something weird? And part of the beauty of Secretary is that at the end, these two people who are on these like very like opposite but parallel journeys, like their sort of Venn diagram meshes perfectly. And so that self-hatred, that I don't want to be like this, I can't be like this, it's wrong to be like this, evolves into this like, it's okay because everybody on board is on board. Everybody involved is consenting, and we like being like this. And I think you see that a lot in Crash as well, is that like, yeah, we're totally fine wanting to fuck during car crashes. That's just what we're into. It's cool. It's fine. No shame, no guilt,
I do. Yeah. You're point about, I kind of want to ask about the, also, well, real quick before we get off consent, the one moment that there's like
my bow got undone. Okay, I'm good now. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. The one moment of it's not consent, but it's like jealousy or like sort of negative thing, is when the stunt driver does the Jane Mansfield crash without that's like the only time. That's the only time
well, that's a violation of consent. Because they agreed to do this thing together. Yeah. And it's also interesting because that is one of also the only times that we like, there's like a couple of times where people die. Right. Yeah. And so I kind of like that the implication is that if not everybody on board, it is dangerous.
Well,
and
also an animal too.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping that he got a stuffed animal. Or like not a stuffed, like a
I like to think that it was like a taxidermy, because I don't think that, I mean, for all their faults and failings, you can't just murder a dog. Like you can't.
Well, that's also to the point about consent, right? Animals can't consent. Like they can't. Like that's definitionally can't consent, right? Yeah. That's always like I talk a lot about CGI on my channel and not liking it, but honestly, the one thing I'm pretty much always okay with is animals in movies, because like it just bothers me to see like in Cat People, the Paul Schrader movie. I think it was one of the only movies I've ever turned off because it just felt like they were just sort of scaring the shit out of a lot of animals. Yeah. And it's like, they can't consent to that. It's like they're getting scared in the moment. They don't know what's going on. I've never liked that. I'm always happy. Like that use of CGI, totally fine with. Yeah. And then in the movie, but the one time there's like not consent, it's like, it involves, you can't just kill a dog as part of your kink. That's not.
And so and I don't know. I think that's really interesting. And also, I'm a big supporter of Does the Dog Die? I'm one of those people. Hold on, I'm going to show you my dog. Dog on the podcast. That's my dog.
Oh, what a beauty.
She's a very good girl, but oh, now my camera's fucked up forever and always. There we go. It's fine. That's fine. We'll just leave it there. But yeah, I'm absolutely like if something bad happens to a dog in a movie, I can't do it. Like
Yeah.
my partners have to like check. They have to like look up beforehand. You're like, oh God, somebody
I've had
gonna
to do that
look at a dog
before.
wrong.
For sure. Yeah, that's
I don't like it. It makes me so sad. I'll watch
Yeah.
anything. I will watch people get murdered and like, eviscerated and like, oh, like your entrails are getting pulled out. I'm like, that's fine. But if somebody like looks at a dog wrong, I'm like, turn
Yeah.
this shit off. I can't.
yeah, it's too mean.
It's too mean.
It's just too mean. So I did want to. So speaking of the trauma and the disability aspect of it, I thought both movies were very, very, yeah, they're both like very. I don't want to say trauma friendly, trauma supportive. Like I think they're both like. Excuse me. It's an interesting thing in my favorite director, this guy Takeshi Kitano, Japanese fella. He is like he's also like a Sam Peckinpah, and like the thing that I always point to is like what he has in his movies is like making sort of like the tying of like beauty with tragedy, or like the tying of like finding some type of poetry in like a very bleak world. He has that. Sam Peckinpah has that. Like a movie I recently did for the podcast, the Wild Bunch. Like it's about these like four guys. Honestly, it's basically the house I live in. It's Polycube. But it's like four guys living on like sort of the fringes of society who like develop this sort of like beautiful friendship. Five guys really, and just like that's their thing. It's like finding some type of like connection and beauty in tragedy.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask about like the association or the relationship with like kink and trauma and disability and all that, because I thought it was fascinating in Crash that it's like the disability. I don't think I've ever really seen it where it's like it's not that the disability is something you got to work around. It's like they include it as part of the thing, and to the point where he has sex with the lady's wound. But also like the textures of like and the sounds, such good sound editing of like the crutches that she has, and also just as a way. I mean, it begins with James Spader does not start as a car crash fetishist at the beginning of the movie. He has a car crash, and then he gets trapped into this world as almost a way to like sort of deal with it on some level.
Yeah.
So, I guess like as a sex educator, what is sex?
What is sex? Well, when two people generally like each other.
And what is there a relationship between like I guess trauma and I guess like turning that into something positive or
Yeah. So I want to be really honest and open and say that we have to tread really carefully when we have this conversation, because there is like a misnomer, a misunderstanding around kink, because for a lot of folks who don't necessarily understand the why of kink or like the hows of kink, they look at it and there tends to be this assumption like, oh, you must have been traumatized, or oh, there must be something wrong with you that you would desire to be spanked or tied up or whatever. And that is not the case, right? Like there are many, many millions of kinky people in the world who are untraumatized, and it's just a fun thing that they like to do. Like the sort of basis that I always like to present when I'm talking about kink and BDSM is that it's just a series of tools in a toolbox, right? Because what is sex? What is intimacy? It is stimulation. And it is, how do we get that stimulation? Where is that stimulation coming from? And so for something like kink and BDSM, it is adding stimulation or it is taking away stimulation, right? You are taking away, you're blindfolded. So now you're taking away the stimulation of sight. You're not worrying about what's going on around you. You're focusing internally on the sensations of your body, right? You're maybe adding something like, like I'm adding handcuffs. Okay. But you're also then taking away movement. What do I have to do with my arms? I don't know anymore because I'm tied up, and that's great because I don't have to think about it. Right. So there's a lot of reasons people turn to kink, and a lot of it is just basically additional or subtracted stimulation. However, it is also true that kink can be very cathartic. Kink can be a way of processing emotions. It can be a way of processing difficult things. And so some people do use kink as a way of taking ownership of trauma that they might have. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be like big T trauma, right? Like the example that always gets thrown around whenever I'm teaching about this kind of stuff is like, there's a thing called consensual non-consent, which is basically like a rape scene, but that is consensually negotiated beforehand, right? And so people always are like, well, don't rape victims. Like, what, well, wouldn't they want to do that to like And I was like, no, like maybe some, but not all, right? And so when we're talking about trauma, it can be something as simple as body image. It can be something as simple as, I don't know what to do with my arms, and I like the comfort of being tied up because it makes me more confident that I don't have to be thinking about what I'm doing with my hands or my feet while we're being intimate, right?
Just neurodivergence.
Yeah, oh my God.
The texture stuff, right? I mean, that I thought was interesting. Like, she's doing the, they make in this movie, they make in Secretary, they make marker sexy, they make whiteout sexy. And like, those are very like, if you have like, even if you're just born with some type of neurodivergence to be like texture sensitive, right?
Yep.
That can be, I mean, it's just like that's not like a trauma, right? It's just a quirk.
Yeah, it's just a quirk, right? And like, and especially, I mean, I've made my entire career off of talking about how kink and BDSM are infinitely useful and infinitely powerful tools for neurodivergent people, because you get to be 100% in control of every single facet. You're in control of what you're seeing, of what you're hearing, of what you're tasting, of what you're feeling. You get to negotiate how long things happen, what you're doing specifically. You can have a fucking bullet point outline if you want of here's exactly what's going to happen in this scene that we're doing together, right? It is infinitely customizable, and it makes, I think, sex and intimacy much more approachable and frankly safer for neurodivergent people. And I will die on that hill. But because of that, I think it's really important to not ascribe trauma as like trauma equals kinky or kinky equals trauma. Because there's been a lot of studies that have shown that kink can help people process trauma. It can help them reclaim a sense of their sexuality. It can help them reclaim a sense of their power, but it can also just be a fun thing that you do on Thursday nights because you're bored and you like being tied up.
Yeah. Do you think that's a weakness? I was for a follow up. Like, both these movies are relatively, because they deal with trauma. Like one guy starts in a car crash, the other one like has childhood trauma. Is that a weakness? Like, not necessarily a weakness of them, but like, would it be nice to have a movie where it's like not from trauma? I guess, because I'm kind of curious if that's maybe just a weakness of movies and storytelling is like a thing, right? You need a why, right? So
I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing as people who get mad about the consent negotiation in Secretary, but it's like, okay, do you want there to be a 25-minute scene where they're sitting at the dinner table and they're doing a yes, no, maybe list and they're talking back and forth? I'm like, that's boring. That's not good storytelling. It's like important in real life that occurred, but like, we're not in real life, right? Like, nobody's mad at Scarface for being a drug dealer. It's part of the story,
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so inappropriate. Like, what about the children? Like, it's a movie. Calm down.
Yeah. It's fantasy.
But yeah, I think that I'm trying to.
I do think now that while you're remembering the thought, I do. I've been watching a lot of like old Hollywood movies, and obviously all the time. But I forget this is a good one. I don't know if have you seen Arsenic on Old Lace? I just watched this the other. Great
movie.
Was
in Arsenic and Old Lace in high school.
Oh wow! Look at this. I did not even do a stalking on that. I do have a stalker question for you though. I'm going to ask you one stalker question.
Okay.
That is. I'll ask you in a sec, because just as a
well, do you remember your thought? Ready, but I do.
Okay, well, before you do, let me just. Well, I was going to say, 25-minute idea for movie. I'm just going to write down 25-minute. The way the sort of the witty repartee of like an Arsenic and Old Lace or like Sullivan's Travels or any of the Coen Brothers movies. You could probably do a scene like that, like if you just kind of make it like old school snappy Hollywood Music Man type dialogue.
Yeah. Like, well, we got lists. We got lists ready.
Yeah. Can I sit down? No, you can't sit me. Who wants to sit like a Seinfeld conversation or something?
Right? Yeah.
I'd love to see a Seinfeld at Kink, to be honest.
Oh my God. I would watch it. I would 100% watch that. But no, so speaking to like trauma in Crash and trauma in Secretary, again, those who do not care for Secretary in particular talk a lot about the fact that Maggie Gyllenhaal comes to, or like, I guess Lee Holloway, because it's not her, like Lee comes to this relationship having just experienced trauma. Like she is mentally ill, she self-harms, she's had like a suicide attempt that she calls, you know, her accident, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of criticism, but I think that and this is just my opinion, I do not speak for the world, but my opinion is that I think, especially in Secretary, what we actually see is a really sympathetic portrayal of someone who has been through some stuff and actually finds power in this relationship, in this dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And she talks about it. There's a whole scene, and I love this scene. I refer to the scene all the time when people are like, why would anybody want to be told what to do? But there's this gorgeous scene where she's talking about walking through the park and how, you know, normally she would worry about like where she's supposed to be or what she's supposed to be doing and is she doing the right thing and blah, 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 blah. But because he told me to take a walk in the park, because he insisted on it, I feel like I'm being held by him. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I feel like I know where I'm supposed to be. And I think that is far more nuanced than we give it credit for, because that experience, especially of submissive people in kink, speaking as one, that is so familiar, right? And so I think, yes, she comes from trauma, but what we see is not a traumatized person becoming more traumatized because of this relationship. What we see is a traumatized person gaining agency, gaining confidence, gaining the ability to ask for what she wants, which is such a powerful thing. Like by the end of the movie, she can name it. She's doing research about it. She's opting in. Like we see her studying kink, like she's in the diner listening to like the audiobook. And so we see her opting in over and over and over, and she's building her own understanding of this world. And
she has a choice too, right?
Yeah, and she has a choice. Like she makes the choice to stay, you know?
And when she goes out with those other people and it's not what she wants. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And like she tries the other way and she realizes that, no, I want this. I want this style of relationship. And so I think the trauma is the catalyst for her finding a way of being that works for her. And I think people can be judgy. I think that's also part of it, is like, that's one of the reasons why I really love talking about kink, is because even like my own mom, like I'm a kink educator. My mom is like, I just don't understand why you'd want to get tied up. I don't understand why you'd want somebody to tell you what to do. It's anti-feminist. And I'm like, yes. And, you know, and so I think that the portrayal of trauma is a little bit different than the portrayal of trauma in Crash. Because if I had a criticism of Crash, I think that it is that Borg mindset. I think it is that assimilation mentality. And I think it's that he does have this trauma happen to him, but there's no real growth. He stagnates in this kind of like, well, I guess this is my life now. I chase people around in cars and I crash into them and then we fuck. Like, and I think the stagnation there is also, though, a really powerful commentary on what can happen if you are not practicing kink healthily, if you are not claiming power, if you are not making sure that you are, you know, this is really what you want, this is really what you should or should not be doing. And so, like, again, it's that wine and cheese. It's that wine and cheese portrayal.
Yeah. Well, you know, so on my first watch, I actually thought it was like, in a weird way, you know, again, the video I just did about like othered representation in movies, about like finding like, you know, representation in things that might not necessarily have to do like explicitly speak about like being trans, but like, you know, be interpreted as that. On my first watch of it, I actually thought like, it's almost like a positive depiction of a nice world where like kink wasn't shamed. Like, I don't think in that world that they live in, they have any concept of kink being shamed. So I don't know that he even needs like, in a way it was almost like a really like, it's like a fantastical positive impression. Like just as much as like, what if elves existed in the world? It's like, what if there was no like heteronormativity, or like, I don't know what the normativity is, like sex, non-kink normativity. Yeah. Where it's like, he doesn't even necessarily, I feel like in Crash, not that I'm needing to defend it or whatever, but like, I would say another way of looking at it that I remember thinking on the first one is like, this is kind of sick because like, he doesn't need to know, like, you know, you don't get any education on kink or any of that stuff, like probably growing up in America generally, right? Probably less and less as, you know, certain folks are trying to take certain things out of like,
we're fine, we're all fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. This is fine.
Yeah, we're all fine. No one's definitely, not trying to return to the sex education that I had as a high schooler in Tennessee where,
oh my God. It's weird wondering if I'm going to get like in trouble from the government for being a sex educator in 2025. Like, it's actually something I spend a lot of time worrying about. Is
That's
like, my mom
silly.
like a list. I don't know.
But like, if it was a thing, it's like, that's I got comments on the video too, like in some videos that I made about like queer representation in media of like, it's like, well, it was on the video I did about Ben-Hur where they were talking about like someone posted something like, well, they're just making Ben-Hur gay. Or it's like, it's the writer's personal opinion. Like, it was like, well, is it the writer's personal thing when they make him straight? It's like, that's like you're just assuming
it's the
that
default.
like, yeah, it's the default. But there's no default. There's no sexual normativity default in this world with James Spader. So he doesn't. I feel like in terms of the rules and everything else, like he almost doesn't need to understand it because it's just like, well,
just
of course,
how it is.
he probably just like, he probably knew 20 guys who were into car crashes growing up. He was like, oh, I'm a car crash.
Oh yeah, I'm a car crash.
In the same way, In the same way, it's like,
man.
I'm a I'm not a fop man. I'm not. I'm not a fop man anymore. I'm a Dapper Dan man. I just have sex with car crashes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I think one of the things that is interesting about Crash is that we are being sort of presented with, if we accept your argument as true, which I actually like that a lot. So if we accept your argument as true, then we as audience members are watching this world from our world of like, oh my God, it's 1996 and James Spader is fucking a dude, Yeah. And so there's like this really interesting, almost like meta quality to it of, as an audience who lives in a society that is very sort of sexually buttoned up and is not necessarily like excited about poly relationships or like even, like homosexual relationships.
Yeah.
Watching it and then just seeing everybody just instantly accept it and be chill with it. It's really interesting. It makes the viewer ask a lot of questions of ourselves that I think, especially for 1996, are like, they're hard questions, right?
Yeah. Well, think about that when there's the car crash and they pull, first of all, there's a car crash.
Which one? Because there's like 20.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The Jane Mansfield crash.
Yeah.
When they drive on the median and like he's taking Vaughn is taking pictures. They can just waltz into the car crash scene, take pictures, have this active accident, and like they can like he can pose his James Spader's wife in the thing. They can, and no one says anything.
Yeah,
because I think in the movie it's just like, oh, the car crash people are here. It's like, they have a right to
these fucking guys.
Think of how this society is so kink friendly and so like sexually friendly that it's like, oh yeah, of course. It's like you never think about that in like America, but like, what if you had the right because we're so like open. You had the right, if you're really into sexually taking pictures of car crashes and being into them, you had the right to take pictures at a scene. It's like you had some type of card where it's like, all right,
you're like, no. Yeah, I'm a car crash fan.
Like society could be set up that way, right? You don't set it up probably for very good reasons.
I mean,
case,
I get why that's not a thing, But no, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually thought about that too, and like that was one of those suspension of disbelief moments where I was like, okay, so they're allowed to drive up like around the whole traffic jam on the medium, rock up next to cops who are like actively doing an investigation. There are firemen like working the jaws of life to like rescue this fucking guy, and they're just like snap, snappity snap, and I was like, well, maybe they think he's a journalist, or like maybe it's a commentary on like the not the crisis, but like the freneticism of like an accident scene, and there's so many people and everybody's in shock, nobody really knows what's going on, and so maybe they're just like not noticing them. But I think if we're agreeing that Crash takes place in a world where it's just like you can just be sexually fluid and people are just kind of like open about what they want, then I think like that's really interesting commentary as well. But how does this world work? How does this work when there is an active car accident? Like what happens?
I think on a small level, I mean, like I'm 34, like, and when I was a kid, you would not, and probably honestly, unfortunately, in a large part of society today, if you were in like a gay couple, probably still in most parts of the South, like you wouldn't just go into a Denny's and like have a passionate kiss with your partner if you're a male couple, because it's like that's just not something you do. But in the same way, like that's why I almost feel like there's like strong like sort of like alternative like sexuality like portrayal here, because it's like this world is so like sexually friendly that it's like if you got a car crash kink, you can just you're allowed to be in an accident. Like that's how friendly we are. But on a small level, Yeah, I mean, I think both worlds, both Crash and Secretary, I think really present a world where it's safe to love who you love and want who you want.
Like Secretary, I think there's one of my favorite sequences in Secretary. My favorite sequence is when she's at the desk and all the people show up and there's this sort of like, is this really happening? Is this not happening? Like what's going on? Like there's like
scene.
news vans outside, but like people are having like a picnic and shit, you know? But it's like all the people who are like asking her questions are asking the same questions that like my mom asked me when I told her like what I do for a living, you know? It's like, well, why would you want to do this? I don't understand. Like, you know, and so they both kind of paint a picture of this world where like, yeah, maybe not everybody gets it, but ultimately they respect it. Ultimately, there's this acceptance of you want what you want, you like what you like, and we're all going to be okay with it. And yeah, I guess there's just going to be some people having sex in the car wash sometimes when I'm just trying to do my job.
Those guys didn't care. I mean,
those guys did not
off her shirt.
care.
Yeah.
There were ample bosoms in view of the car wash men, and they didn't even look. They were very respectful about it, frankly. It was this is so stupid, but like I go to a lot of kink conventions, right? Like for my job, I teach a lot of workshops. I go around, and so like there are times in my life when I will just be like doing a workshop, and like behind me, just dicks are walking by, or like a man in like a dog mask on like a leash, or you know whatever, and it becomes just part. You know, it's like I don't think about it. I don't think about it twice. Like there's somebody having an active scene in the hallway.
Approach it.
Yeah, I'm just like,
it's like don't stare at it. It's like
I was like, and they're just washing cars. They're fine, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the classic the argument when I was like growing up, right, about like gay marriage. It's like the classic sort of just like everybody's like, if you have like a slightly liberal dad or uncle, it's just like I don't care what they do. You know, it's like whatever. Like don't like why do you that's just like
why do you care so much?
Yeah, don't look at it.
How is it affecting your life?
Yeah, they're having sex in a car wash. Like you know, that's everyone's. You know, they're all. That's between them. Don't.
Yeah. That's between them and God.
Yeah. You know what's interesting?
Jane Mansfield.
Since you brought up since you brought up that scene in Secretary, which I loved, where all the people are coming to the sort of fantasy scene where all are sort of, it's like the other thing, and we always try and do like movie genres. This is also almost like a sports movie for kink. This is like, she's training, this is like a Rocky.
I love the tiger.
Yeah, that's like everyone's cheering her on, which again, positive portrayal of it. But I thought, the one person who had like, who wasn't asking those questions, maybe there's others, but the dad who brings in the Bible and says, hey, Catholic saints used to do, like Catholic monastery, like missionaries or whatever used to do this, like in friars, like, it's like BDSM was there too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The dad is just like, whatever makes you happy, which is especially like based on that relationship. I think that's a really powerful moment. But the other thing that I like, sorry, can I rant about it for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like the other thing that I love about that scene is that it does, it's a little bit of a throwback to the diner scene, because in the diner scene she's listening to this audiobook about how to come out as a dominant / submissive, which I think is so funny that that's the name of, like, how to come out as a dominant / submissive. They're the same thing basically. But like, so she's doing this, and then she's like in the wedding dress and she's doing all this stuff, and all these people are like, why are you doing this, whatever. But then there's a point where they show like the party outside and her like supportive family who are like cheering her on, and they're like, you can do it, whatever. But then like the news vans, there's like news vans that show up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really subtle, and I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting too much, but I think it's a really beautiful moment of what it can feel like to come out as kinky, because that's her coming out moment, right? Like she's literally like debutante ball, like this is going to be me, this is going to be my relationship, this is where I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to be living my life, and I choose this and I accept this, and her family is like, okay, we don't get it, but like, okay. And like that feeling of, oh my God, all of my friends and family are going to know. Oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? Like everybody's going to know. Everybody, and the like literal news vans are like filming this happening. And I think it's like, this entire episode, I want to be so clear, could just be about the production design of Secretary, because I have multiple rants about how good and smart and nuanced it is and how much it aids in the storytelling. But like that moment, with like the news vans and the party and the picnic and all of that stuff. But then I think that really beautifully ties into the end where you see them at home, right? Like they're together, they have this beautiful home together. They have this like sweet, quiet life. There's like this little moment where she like throws the cockroach on the bed. So she's bratting, and she's like, so that their dynamic is like established, and, she feels safe to do that. But then the ending of that fucking movie is so fucking good because it's just, he just drives off into the suburbs and there's like families and there's like kids riding their bikes and there's like people walking their dogs and all of this stuff. And I'm like, because we're just like you, we could be your next door neighbor. And I think that's so brilliant because I think it takes it from that fairy tale to now we can take the lessons that we've learned from that. And we can say, okay, well, when I meet a kinky person, I don't have to be fucking weird about it. They can just be my neighbor. They can just be the person walking their dog. But like Crash, I think does something like a little bit different. Crash is like they're still looking. They're still looking for it. They're still looking for like this thing that they're not getting. And I think Secretary ends with them getting what they want. And Crash ends with them realizing that they're never going to be able to get what they want until they like functionally die in a car crash, which is, it's dark. I think it's a dark ending. Like maybe the next one, you know?
In a way, yeah. I mean, the world's so nice that they live in that I'm like, oh, that's just like, what a nice place. Like,
right.
I just think it's such an accepting, to your point about, Shakespeare, you said you're a Shakespeare nerd.
This is true.
One of the best descriptions I remember when I took a Shakespeare class in college, I think is it Henry V. I want to say the way the professor, I'm not going to shout out his name because I don't think he'd want to be associated. It's just like a much more shout out to you, anonymous professor, who's very good, that I loved. He said it's like it's a weird thing to read because it's like Shakespeare saying like this is what an ideal king looks like. Mm-hmm. He's like, I think it's Henry V. I wish I knew the plays better, but he's like it's not like he's like there might not be as much like drama or like conflict or other things like that you'd see in other plays because he's like saying this is like the portrait of an ideal king. And I almost think like Crash is like maybe Cronenberg doing something similar. It's like this is the portrait of like an ideal world where there wasn't like normativity in a way that made so many people feel shameful. I think if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think my only argument against that, and this is me being a petty Shakespeare scholar, but like I think one of the things that Henry V does really well is that Henry V is a sequel to Henry IV, and so what we see in Henry IV is we see Prince Hal, and then in Henry V he becomes King Henry, right? So he goes from Hal to Henry, and so I think that there's like a development, and so honestly, I would say that I think that follows a little bit more of Secretary, of that like stepping into your power, stepping into like who you are and who you're really destined to be. I don't know. The ending of Crash felt empty to me. And I also didn't give a shit about any of the characters, which I think I really didn't. I did not care. I kept trying. I watched it twice too, because I was like, maybe it needs like a review. So I watched it, and then I watched it like a couple of days ago, like to just prep for this. And I was like, no, I still don't care. Now? I still don't care. I'm not. Also, do you want to hear a really like dumb, not dumb, it's actually really important. I feel like to mention this.
Sure.
Would you like to hear a really like nerdy sex educator thing?
Sure.
So Crash is based on this idea. I wrote it down because I can never remember how to say it. Symphorophilia is the name of it. Is symphorophilia, which is being sexually aroused by disasters up to and including car crashes, but like earthquakes, tornadoes, whatever floats your canoe. But
my dating career,
But symphorophilia was named, I guess, or coined as like a type of sexuality by this guy named John Money. Which his fucking name is John Money.
Related to Eddie.
And he's a terrible fucking person. And it's really important, I think, that we name that because he did like a lot of like really unethical experiments on like intersex people and was like really like anti-trans and had like a lot of like really shitty messaging. And so I think something that is really interesting about Crash as a movie is that like just from like a galaxy brain is like Cronenberg, well, I guess like Barrow or whatever his name was. Yeah, Ballard. That was his name. Like Ballard. I was going to say J.K. Simmons. I'm like, that's not right. That's not the right name.
Yeah, same guy.
But like Ballard writes this book and Cronenberg is like, this would make a good story. And so Cronenberg takes this idea of symphorophilia and presents it in a world where like it's just kind of fine and it's just kind of cool. But in real life, John Money was actively doing the exact opposite thing and actually cause like a lot of harm to people of different like gender expressions and like sexualities and that kind of thing. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I just think that's like a really interesting component of this movie.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
fascinating.
you know what I mean? Like, fuck you, John
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah, it's weird. Cronenberg is a weird director. So this was probably the first like I had seen. Yeah, I had a weird intro. Have you seen a lot of Cronenberg movies?
I've seen
or
a couple.
like Videodrome, or like probably I think I've seen Videodrome. The first two I saw when I was probably in high school around was a History of Violence and Eastern Promises, which are very different than.
Yeah, I've seen History of Violence, but it feels different than this.
It feels different. And then I'd never seen much of the body horror stuff until I watched a couple movies a couple years ago, and then Crash. And Crash is my favorite movie, but he is and I mean this, come at me in the comments if you want, but he's kind of a dumb guy. And I mean that lovingly. I don't think you need to be a smart guy to be a director. Ward knows I'm not a smart guy. And I think like, he is not like, he is operating on a level where like even from if in Eastern Promises, there's a famous scene where Viggo Mortensen has a fight in like a bathhouse nakedly with these two Russian guys who are trying to kill him with linoleum knives. And when he's asked about it, Cronenberg was like, oh, did you do research about like what, like, do people carry around linoleum knives? Is that what people do? And he's like, no, I just thought like that's what people would do, maybe. Like, he's like,
I just thought it would be cool.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, he's like, I think people might do that. Like if you're like, oh, I don't want to be caught with a knife, but I'm actually just like a mason or something. So I'm carrying around a linoleum knife. And it's like it's a very brutal scene, but I don't think he's like, he's almost like, because I thought about your thing about like Ebert in his review of this. I think it was like the one excerpt I saw. He's like,
I was going to talk about this too. Yeah.
He's like, this is about a sexual fetish that no one has.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a thing. He still gave it 3.5 stars. But I'd be kind of like, have you? So I guess as a sex educator, you've been to a lot of kink conferences. Are there people like? Is that a real like? Is it saprophilia or whatever the word you said?
Symphorophilia.
Symphorophilia. There you go.
I'm gonna say again. I do not speak for the group. I have to be so careful too, because I'm always like, whenever I do interviews like this where we're talking about like consent or kink, I'm like, God, somebody's gonna get mad. Somebody's gonna be mad at me, and I'm like, I'm doing my best.
Put up a highway banner. She's not speaking for the group, just in her your experience.
I was like, there's also the death. Like social media has led to the death of nuance in a way that makes me want to claw my fucking eyes out. Like Jesus Christ. Like,
well, honestly, it'll make a lot of views if I'm gonna cut that question. Then you said like no before, and so I'll just we'll just
you're like
take it out. For the views,
consent
right?
is bad. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. But like, oh no. But like, I honestly, I haven't. I mean, I like, there's something in the kink
you've probably seen a lot of kink.
I have. I will say that there's something in the kink community called edge play, which is basically exactly what it sounds. It's sort of like the edge of what can be consensual.
Bladed weapons.
Yeah. Literally though.
Long swords, broadswords.
If you're into it, I did once get thrown out of a dungeon because somebody shot me with a bow and arrow, and that's a true story about my life, and it's one of my proudest moments. Is that somewhere in the United States, I'm not going to tell you where, there's a dungeon that has a sign that says no bows and arrows.
I want to be exceedingly clear. This was not in like a tabletop RPG, but this was in like
no. This was in real life. This was in real life. I got shot with a bow and arrow. It was kind of an accident, but it was kind of not an accident. But anyway, I'm going to leave that story there and will not elaborate further. I'm an enigma. But no, like, so there's edge play, right? And so edge play is stuff that can be, I don't want to say like ethically dicey because like you're consenting to it, but it can be more difficult to manage. And what that can look like is things like cutting, right? So like actually taking a knife or a razor blade and cutting the skin with the purpose of having there be blood. There can be, more intense like interrogation scenes where maybe a person is being actually tortured up to a point, again, consensually negotiated ahead of time. But there's like some people are like into, this is one that like I could never, but again, I'm not here to kink shame. I'm just here to educate.
Open and positive.
But like guns are another one, like holding a gun to a head, like there's some people I've read about who are like, I can't do it unless the gun is loaded because otherwise it doesn't feel right. And I'm like, that's a type of
That
edge
seems
play
kinda
that
crazy.
I cannot ethically support or encourage.
Shout out a couple of my friends in high school. One of them slept with a loaded gun under in high school. Just
Jesus
being
Christ. That's
Yeah.
unsafe. But
Yeah.
so like I haven't really ever met a person who's like, car crashes do it for me. But I've met a lot of people, frankly, I've met a lot of people who are like, blood does it for me, or pee does it for me, or scat does it for me. Like stuff that we don't really talk about as like part of quote unquote normal kink. Because I
No.
think we're still in a place as a society where there's like a line, and then past that line is stigmatized. So like 50 Shades of Grey, Secretary has like kind of opened it up to like, yeah, sure, people like to be tied up, people like to be spanked, people like to be blindfolded, and we're all kind of like okay with that. But when it gets to like, I like to be cut, or I like to be scarred, or I like to be branded, we tend to look at those with a little bit more stigma. We tend to look at those with a little bit more of like,
Yeah.
and a lot of dungeons have rules against that type of play. Like there's only a certain line that you can play to, even in the dungeon. So yeah, like to each their own, but
You can only cast a level 5 spell.
yeah, you can only cast
Yeah.
a level 5 spell.
Yeah.
But yeah. Also, speaking of that Roger Ebert review, the other thing that I thought was really interesting about that review was that he talked about if a computer had made a movie that was basically like, what do people like? They like sex and they like cars, and like this is the movie that would spit out. And now we're literally in an era where production companies are like asking AI to create
Yeah.
movies. And what is the AI going to spit out? And like, I wonder if we're going to start seeing more movies like Crash, just like unhinged weird AI shit. I don't know.
What was interesting? There's a new channel that I followed on TikTok that I was laughing my ass off with. That's what we should do for an episode. I almost want to like load one up and get a live reaction from you. I might actually do that in a minute. Because it's the weirdest. It's like, I think it's called. My buddy had told me about this. I don't know if it was a specific app, but like there is an app. I think it's called Real something, Real Shorts or something like that, maybe, where it's like you have to pay to unlock the content, and so they're like short form vertical videos. He had done some acting for one of them, and but these are like everything has wolves in it, and like they're these CGI wolves. Yeah, it's
What
like
friend of
alpha.
mine was in there? Yeah, a friend of
Okay.
mine was there. They call it, oh God, there's a name for them because I see the
I think they
postings all the time.
film in Atlanta.
They
I
call
wanna
it
say.
like vertical
Yeah.
content or something like that's like, but like backstage and like,
Yeah.
like the casting websites, all of them have like vertical film or whatever. And they're all like pornos with like wolves, like wolves
Yeah.
and vampires and billionaires.
Yeah, that is something interesting. So I was reading your bio, and and I think, you.
Wait, is this your stalker question?
No. Do you want
Okay.
my stalker question? Hold on. I'm gonna
Ask the question you were going to ask and then do the stalker question because I'm still really
Okay.
curious about the stalker question.
It'll be good. I think you'll really like it.
I'm excited.
I don't know if you watched the last episode, but I went really crazy with the research on with
It's like
with
hot
Rebecca.
ones.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
This is my hot ones. I don't like sauces, so this is perfect.
Okay. So yeah, you started according to your bio, you laid off, I think, from something. Maybe it was the Georgia Renaissance Festival
That is
or
correct.
something.
Yes.
And then you started talking about experience with ADHD and depression, and you quickly shot up. You're a big star now. You had like a
Well,
yeah.
well, all right.
big
I'll view
star
it
now.
this. Oh.
And so it seemed like you got like 1 million followers in like a year or like 2 years or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So how
But
did
who's
that?
counting?
Who's counting, right? How did that change you? Like, are you now just a performance, or because you're neurodivergent, are you used to masking and everything's been a performance, or yeah?
Oh God! I said thank you. I can finally break the act. No, like
Yeah.
I honestly, I think I don't know if this is an answer to your question, but I'm going to answer this question this way: is
However
that
you want.
I kind of had to like retcon a lot of stuff because when I first got started, I was so excited that I was finally feeling seen. I was finally feeling accepted. I was finally feeling like I had found this community of people who got it and understood me. And so I just pulled my whole soul open and I was like, here's everything I've ever felt and regretted and just, just every little personal detail. And then it turns out that when you've got a couple of million people who are aware of you and your content, that sometimes gets really awkward and that gets really uncomfortable. And so I actually had to kind of start scaling back. I went from being way too open and way too honest and way too vulnerable and oversharing, like in ways that now I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like what the fuck was this? Like, to really having to be more measured. And I also think that there is, and it's honestly, it's why I have fear around doing stuff like this, right? Because, you know, anybody could clip 30 seconds of this podcast to be like, Catieosaurus doesn't believe in consent or like whatever. Yeah. And I'm a whole person. I'm a whole person with opinions and interests that are sometimes, you know, divergent to what the rest of the neurodivergent community believes. And so there is a modicum of reservation. There's a little bit of a wall that I have to have. There's a little bit of a protective barrier that I have to have. And it's definitely not an act. Like I am who I am. I'm too tired to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I'm just lazy. I'm too lazy. I'm just too lazy. But I do worry, I think, about the fact that I think there is a lack of nuance on like a lot of social media these days. People love to be the person who gets to call out the big creator for like saying the wrong word or like, you know, holding the wrong opinion or even saying the opinion in the wrong way. And like,
I got called out.
Yeah. What happened to you?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's
a
funny one.
But it happens, you know?
This is the second episode in a row I think I'm going to shout her out. I really like this creator, Jenna Kois, whatever. She does cinema and fashion reviews.
Okay.
And she had said something about Jimmy Stewart. Or I had said something about, I didn't know if Jimmy Stewart was a babe. And so she made a whole video about
Jimmy
it.
Stewart is a babe. Confirmed babe.
I know. I had to issue a public apology on that. So
yeah.
Shout out, Jenna.
Yeah, but you know, like that call out culture, I think it gets really, especially in the line of work. I don't know. This has nothing to do with movies. Now I'm just getting like introspective.
Go ahead.
But like, yeah. I think in the line of work that I do, what I do is literally intimacy. I talk about your brain. I talk about like your brain and how it relates to your body. I talk about how our bodies relate to your like others, right? I talk about like ADHD and intimacy and communication and relationships. And there's a lot of intimacy there. And people trust me, right? Like people trust me. I have worked really hard to maintain a reputation of being an ethical educator, an educator who doesn't overgeneralize or spread misinformation. I work really hard to use like peer-reviewed studies. I name those studies. I show those studies. Because there is a lot of really shitty information on TikTok. That is also true. There are a lot of like life coaches and ADHD coaches who are like, did you know that if you walk a certain way, it means that you're like, what or the fuck are you talking about, right? Or like, did you know that everybody with ADHD is psychic? And I'm like, that's not a thing. Stop.
Yeah.
And so
I wish I was.
I know, right? I was like, God, I wish I had superpowers.
Yeah.
But like, because of that, I think as my platform has grown, and honestly, as like the places that I appear have grown, because I went from being like a TikToker to, okay, now I have a podcast, to now I have a podcast with understood.org, which is like one of the preeminent organizations in the world for learning differences. Now I have a column in Playboy magazine. I write, like, I've been in the New York Times. Cool. And it sounds like humble bragging, but it's not. It's really
now
like,
I can buy one and say I read it for the articles.
Yeah. Like, oh my God. The number of friends who made that joke. If I had $1 for every friend who was like, oh, I'm out for the article. No, it's fine. Basic. It's fine. I get another $1. I get another $1.
I'll read it for the tits.
Yeah. I read it for the tits, frankly. But you know, like that kind of thing. And it's even, you know, making the joke of like, oh, I read it for the tits. It's like somebody could clip that and have a really good, you know, like Catieosaurus is sexist and objectifies women. And I'm like, I don't think that's true, but I always have that like fear in my head. And I think what you see is what you get with me. But I think I have to be really careful about not giving too much, because I want people to what you see is what you get. But I really, you know, like, I don't know. It's really nuanced, and my rant, like the joke, I've told this joke on like 17 different podcasts. So this is not like an original, hilarious thought, but like I went to school for theater my whole life. I was a high school theater kid. I was a college theater kid. I got 2 master's degrees in Shakespeare because I just wanted to keep doing theater and learning about, you know, theater. But at no point in theater school, at any like level do they go? And here's what happens if 2 million people suddenly know who you are. Here's what happens if people start walking up to you at the grocery store and freaking out and crying because they recognize you. Here's how to react if people start cosplaying your characters at conventions. Here's, they don't teach you what to do when you get to be successful. And so a lot of this process, a lot of this journey has been me learning it as it happens, right? Learning how to react if somebody comes up to you dressed as you, or, like one of your characters, or like what to do when somebody says like your content saved my life, or it changed my life, or it saved my marriage, or it saved my relationship with my daughter or my son. Like I didn't kill myself because of your content. Like I have a whole wall over here. You can't see it, but I have just baskets of letters and cards and notes that people have given me over the past few years of just those sentiments. And I think at some point Catieosaurus became bigger than me. Like I'm Catieosaurus, and it's great and it's a privilege to be, but Catieosaurus is really the community. Catieosaurus is really the people who have found themselves in my content, which is maybe a little like esoteric and douchebaggy. I don't know, but I don't know where I was going with that answer, but I got like really vulnerable. I'm sorry. I was like, anyway, so secretary's cool, right? Like, I'm uncomfortable now.
That's the point of this. Believe me, that's the point of this.
This is the hot ones question.
Well, I did want to ask. Well, I actually, eventually we'll get to the hot ones question, but I did want to ask, in terms of like representation with movies, because I've been, talking with my therapist about this, but it's like interesting that like I guess like my experience has probably been like, not that like I don't have friends, or like, because I have like very, very close friends, and like I'm extremely blessed with a close friend group, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's been kind of weird because I've been doing this channel for since January, and I'm about to hit like 20,000 followers in like a couple months.
That's great.
Which is, freaky. But I just didn't.
Weird.
Well, it's just like if people want to listen to me, like what? Like I just not an experience that like. I guess I'm used to, or that I thought was. So I was curious about like your thing with the secretary as someone who, I don't want to say like, I'm really like trying not to be rude when I say like,
no, it's okay. You can be rude. 10-second rude test.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say like, but like, it's not like you went to college for being a social media star and then like went to social media. It's like you start like you had like all these other experiences that like were successful or not successful as anybody did. And then like, you then became like, sort of skyrocketed in this time. So I'm kind of curious in terms of like when you were talking earlier about like, it was so nice seeing like a coming out party, and like, it's kind of like it was nice to see like when secretary specifically, I wanted to ask about, it's like, oh, this is like such a nice experience for her, which I agreed with because like everyone's so supportive. I guess like as someone who is like, when you talked about like revealing your true self to the world, like, did you have a similar experience to kind of that in secretary? Not necessarily with kink, but just like the idea of like, now I'm putting my thoughts and oversharing, and I'm putting myself sort of more out there, and that people are responding really, really well to it in a way. That's
a great question. Holy shit. No, that's such a good question. The answer is yes. I mean, yes and yes. Yes to both being sort of open and honest about my neurodivergency and the way that like my disability impacts my life. Yes to that. And there was a point where I really... Like I've always been like, first off, I watched Secretary at like a formulative age. Like that movie has been a part of my life for a long time.
Sick.
I was like, I understand some things about myself as a 12-year-old. Like Jesus Christ. But like
Boogie Nights was the first R-rated movie I watched. It was probably the first time I'd seen like a male, like an adult male penis, probably, like, aside from like locker rooms, but the famous ending scene, right?
My first R-rated movie was Con Air, and I don't know why I remember that so specifically, but I remember my dad made a huge deal of like, you're gonna get to watch this movie, but like, don't tell your mom. I was like, all right,
a sick movie.
It's a good ass movie. But I started talking about my neurodivergence, and I don't think a lot of people were surprised about like, oh, she has ADHD. Like, I think it had always kind of been there. But it was certainly interesting, especially for like people I knew. Especially when I started talking about the fact that I'm also on the spectrum. I'm autistic, right? And they're like, well, you don't look autistic. You don't seem autistic. I'm like, have you ever seen me at a party? But like, that was really interesting, was like the sort of responses of like, what do you mean that you've had ADHD the whole time? And I was like, well, yeah. And then there was sort of this pivot moment where I was like, talking about ADHD as a generality is fine. Like, I enjoy it. It's fine. It's easy. I can make 20 videos about, ADHD and organization or whatever. And I still do. I still make that content. But the thing that I was really curious about and I was really passionate about and I couldn't find any fucking answers about was sex and sexuality and intimacy. And I had always had these issues. I had always had problems like relating to myself as like a sexual being, and some of that came from being raised in like a really like conservative Catholic home, Catholic schoolgirl, like all of that kind of stuff. But some of it also was as I sort of learned more about my brain and I started understanding the way that like my neurodivergence manifests and the way that like executive functioning works in ADHD brains. I started realizing like there's a lot about sex and relationships and intimacy that I don't know, that I've never gotten answers about. And so, I just kind of got autistically hyper-focused and curious. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to learn everything I can. But that was a point. Like, there was a point where I was like, I really want to talk about sex on the internet. And I really want to talk about sex on the internet in a really intimate, really personal, really honest, really open way. And people get like weird. Like, you can talk about sex as like a concept, right? Like, people are aware of sex existing, and we see like a lot of like sanitized sex, in media and film, and like even in porn, I think sex is fairly sanitized and streamlined. But I really wanted to talk about like what happens when you forget that sex exists, or what happens when, you're an ADHD woman with like recurring yeast infections, like, fun, sexy stuff like that. And so I really had to have that sort of coming out moment of looking at like I'm not particularly close with like a lot of my family. Like, they don't like me, and that's fine. I don't care. But like I had to look at my mom and be like, just so you know, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to talk about. And she was really supportive. She was actually really supportive. And it was interesting that you're talking about like your dad was a defense attorney, because both my parents were state's attorneys. And so I kind of grew up with that same kind of relationship with the police, where my parents really wanted to do right by the people who were coming into the courtroom. And so my mom became an advocate for survivors of sexual violence. And she worked a lot with especially like kids. My mom did all like
that's what my dad shifted into. He was a defense lawyer and then he was a family lawyer.
Yeah. And so my mom did like most of like the sex abuse cases. Like, that was the bulk of my mom's job, was working with kids. And so I think, as uncomfortable as she was with it, I think there was also kind of an element of, she saw what happens when we don't talk about sex, when we don't talk about intimacy, when we don't have healthy ideas. And so I don't think she loves the fact that like you can absolutely find my boobs on the internet now. But I think she gets it, I think she understands like where I'm coming from and why I do the work that I do in the way that I do. But yeah, it's still weird at Christmas. It's still weird, it's still weird. Like, when my like, what is it? The extended family is like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, have you heard of OnlyFans? Because it's like that, but very different.
Yeah, I kind of had a falling out with a lot of my extended, at least on one side of my family, like last year, or the year before. And honestly, I almost took out a story. I told a story last episode. It's funny you mentioned like extended family. I just kind of affirmatively decided to not give a shit, I think. Just not in general, like, I have no ill will against any of them at all. It's just like it's just like that sort of chapter of my life is just kind of over. But I was concerned about the episode last episode. I told a story about how I kind of had like low-key PTSD from like one of the scenes in The Mirror Has Two Faces, just because they were in sort of a New York, New Jersey coded house with a baseball game on, and I told this story about visiting like a great uncle's my great aunt's family, and my great uncle was like, he's this alcoholic, he had a bandage. I have my dad's schizophrenic cousin and all this, and like I was like, should I take that story out? But I was like, you know what, it all happened. Like it all, like, he got, he was an abusive guy, and he got his jaw broke with an ashtray flung across the room, and I was like maybe I should take that out. But I was like, you know what, like they shouldn't have done all that. Like, it's like they shouldn't, like, and that's I don't know.
I think it's hard because I never want to. I worry so much about offending people. I worry so much about being wrong. Just like, there's been videos that I've taken down because I said like, oh, this study came out in like May of, 2020, but it was actually like June. And I'm like, oh, I was wrong. I have to take the video. And I'm like, I don't think anybody would actually care about that, but like I care.
Yeah.
But there's also that element of how truthful can I be? And even when I was writing the book, I really struggled a lot with that because like a lot of the trauma that I carry is about being an undiagnosed neurodivergent kid who was horribly mistreated by the adults in my life. Like I was openly bullied by my third grade teacher, and I was like, do I name her? Do I talk about that experience? Do I ask her in the book like, why were you picking on a 10-year-old, And it was like the same with my parents. Like my parents did their best, like my parents certainly didn't know I had ADHD, but they tried, but there were a lot of places where they fucked up. Like they fucked up in the way that they handled things. And looking back, I was like, oh, that did a lot of damage. And so I was like, do I talk about it? Do I put that in there like with honesty? Do I need to like make a little asterisk like, but I still have a really good relationship with my mom, you guys, like. And so ultimately I decided that like I think maybe like you, like it happened. It is part of my story. It is part of my experience.
You have as much right as anybody to tell that story, right?
Yeah. And like, I think for me, a lot of it is about context. Like I love context, like as a historian, as an academic, I love context. And so I think telling the truth, telling truthful stories about what happened, I think it can provide a lot of context. And I also think like, I'm sure you're not the only person in the world who dealt with a family like that. And I think, even in the middle of like a podcast about movies or whatever, that moment of connection, that moment of like, wow, he's like me. He had this thing happen and, he's still awesome. He's still cool. Like, I think that can be really powerful. Just that like representation of not everything is sunshine and roses all the time. Even if you have a really cool job, even if you are, really successful or whatever. I don't know. I think it's important.
It's fucked up because honestly, like one thing I was thinking about is I did a video. It's probably my most popular video on my channel now about autism representation in the movie The Heiress. And so many people are finding like I've never seen an autistic woman character before, like well written like this. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. Just me as like a cis straight white like male. It's like I can fall out of bed and there's like a million things generally for me.
Yeah.
Not
also,
as much
I saw
on
that
like.
video and it was great.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. But I noticed like actually one thing I started even thinking it's like there's a like they pejoratively used it was like a family joke all growing up, honestly, like my like that cousin that had schizophrenia, like I'm not going to give him his name, but like let's say his name was John. It's like there'd be a family joke in the family. It's like if you wanted like, if you wanted your peas and carrots separated, it'd be like, oh, okay, John, like, okay, it was a punchline for like, you're some type of, you're just a weird, like you're a sensitive pussy or something is like kind of the way they intended it. Like, I'm not saying
we had one of those too. I had an uncle who was like profoundly autistic,
but they're
in
like
the 1930s when it was like nobody knew what autism was. And it was the same thing. It was like the family joke of like, oh, you're like really into this like topic or
But then it's like, that I think about is literally talking about it's like the way that it's like, you like, because like I have, not to go too deep into it, but I think I talked about it in one episode, but like I definitely have some things with like some OCD, but it's like, you never want to show those in like a family situation with like any type of extended family. Because it's like, certainly because it's like, oh, what are you, John? Like, oh, what are you doing? You got a little, and it's like, it's so like, hurtful. Well, that I'm gonna, I guess I'd like to start, it's like that should be talked about, right? It's like I did want to ask. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna ask a question.
Do it. Ask it. I dare you.
Okay. Okay. What is your favorite menu item at Edelweiss German restaurant?
Edelweiss German restaurant.
This is my attempt at a Hot Ones question.
Oh.
In Virginia, in Staunton. Stanton. Have you never been there? Okay,
no. I don't know about the Edelweiss German restaurant in Stanton, Virginia.
Damn, I saw somewhere on your profile something about Stanton, Virginia.
Yeah, I can tell you what my favorite restaurant is in Stanton, Virginia. It's called The Mill, and they have the best loaded fries that you've ever had in your life. And then there's also this place called The Split Banana, and they have the greatest hot chocolate that we literally ordered gallons of it for our wedding because it was the best shit in the entire world. It was like drinking the hot soul of chocolate. It is the best cup of hot chocolate you will ever have in your life. Split Banana. Go check it out.
I'll have to try that. Yeah, Edelweiss is it's like it's in Stan or
I'm like
Staunton?
looking. It's
yeah.
well, everybody says it's Stanton. Like it's Stanton. And
Okay.
supposedly it's because that's how they picked out the Northerners and the Southerners in the Civil War, which seems fake, but okay, hold on. I'm looking this up. What the fuck is this?
It's like halfway. It's like sort of at the halfway point between East Tennessee and like New York. It's like probably like 6 hours away out of like a 10, 11-hour drive or something from New York City. But anyway, whenever we have a lot of family up there, whenever we would drive from Tennessee up to New York City, like halfway through, we'd always like plan around eating at Edelweiss because it's like such a crazy good size. Anyway, that was my attempt at one.
No,
but you got to
really
go there.
Good, though. I'm looking to try and figure out where it is in Stanton.
It's like right off the highway.
I don't need to do this right now, but this is what I'm doing. It's so funny.
It's my own fault. Yeah, it's really good. It's great. It's like a Black Forest German style restaurant. They have great Black Forest cake.
I don't like German food, so that's probably why I didn't go.
Okay. Well, this podcast is ending soon.
I know. Bye.
I love German food.
European adventure right in your backyard. Okay.
Yeah. It's great.
Where is this place? I've never.
It's right off the highway. It's on
okay.
They have like like you would normally say McDonald's and like Steak and Shake.
Is it by
they have like a sign on there.
Pioneer
Exit something
Museum?
something in Virginia.
Oh, they have their own lane. It's right off of Edelweiss Lane.
Yeah. It's right off the highway. It's really
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever go back there. And I don't know what association you have with it, but I saw the location. I was like, oh, I wonder if she's had it.
I'm just going to do from the ASC, American Shakespeare Center. This is so unnecessary. Please cut this. Oh, it's like out. It's like out of Stanton.
Okay. Yeah, it's right off the highway of like whatever that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's out by Draft. Yeah, my husband Chris grew up in Stewart's Draft, so I bet his parents have eaten there like a whole load of times. But I was mostly in like Stanton proper because I didn't have a car in grad school.
Gotcha. Is there a school there? I don't think I've ever actually been to Stanton proper.
Yeah, that's where I got my master's, 2 of them. There's a college there. It used to be an all-women's college called Mary Baldwin University, or it was Mary Baldwin College. And then my first year in grad school, they actually transitioned to be a university. They made sections of it are co-ed. But yeah, it's a long-standing women's university out there. And they have like a partnership with the American Shakespeare Center. And so
that's cool.
Yeah, just like Shakespeare focus.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And also the Woodrow Wilson Presidential Library.
Yeah, I would have. I didn't want to open up with a Shakespeare gimmick 2 episodes in a row.
You can. That's
for
fine.
Guess. Well, I don't know if the last episode she had done Richard III as a lady.
Cool.
So I opened up with that was my favorite Shakespeare play. So I opened up with a little
Mine's Titus Andronicus. I apologize for nothing.
Is that good or I don't know if I've read that one.
Oh, Titus Andronicus is widely regarded as Shakespeare's worst play, and I have such an affection for. Actually, it is Shakespeare's version of a Quentin Tarantino movie. That is what it is.
Okay.
It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's amazing. It's glorious. I love it. I will defend it to the death. Deals with like sexism and racism, and like there's like an entire plot that is just racism. It deals with like rape and sexual assault and like the fallout from it, but it is also hilariously violent. It's got the most deaths of any Shakespeare play, the most deaths per minute of any Shakespeare play. There's several beheadings, there's several behandings. It's a mess. It's a fucking mess of a play, but it's one of his earliest plays that he ever wrote. And you can see the seeds. You can see this like really good playwright who's like just kind of figuring it out. And there's so many places where it's like, oh, he didn't know how to stage things yet. Like there's just nonsensical scenes that make no sense and they're impossible to stage. Like it's so good. I love it. I have 2 Titus Andronicus tattoos. Depends on which one you watch. But I will fight to the death about the Tamor version.
Okay.
One of the sort of subversive, it's not at all subversive, but one of the things that people didn't like about the Tamor version is that she actually swapped the opening scenes. So normally Titus Andronicus, like the play as written, opens with a scene between Saturninus and Bassianus, and they're like arguing over who should be emperor of Rome. But Julie Taymor swapped scenes. So it opens differently and it works really well. A lot of people don't like it. I don't know why they don't like it, but I really like the Tamor. I think it's a really great introduction into Titus Andronicus. Like if you've never seen it before, it's a good, like everybody does a good job. Alan Cumming is in it and he's fabulous. He's so good in it. And what's his face? Anthony Hopkins is Titus, and he's really good too.
Yeah, it looks like there's been a 1973 one, Theater of Blood.
That
with
one's really
Vincent Price.
That's
Is that good?
that's a good fucking movie. It's
Okay.
It's wild. It is a deep cut, but it's really good. It's like the premise, and also honestly, if I ever write a murder mystery series, it is going to be based on Theater of Blood. But basically, the premise is like there's a murderer who is murdering people as like how they die in Shakespeare plays. It's great. It's so good.
What about The Hungry 2017
I haven't
Indian
seen
movie?
No.
Yeah,
I haven't
apparently
seen
there's
that
an
one.
Indian drama adaptation of Titus Andronicus.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm watching tonight. I collect Tituses, so
Okay.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm up to like 50, I think. Like 50 different productions of Titus. So yeah.
Really?
What's it called? The Hungry?
It's called The Hungry 2017. It's if you look up on the Wikipedia, I was just looking real quick on adaptations.
Hungry.
It'll
2017. Okay, yeah. That was right after I left grad school and I was super burned out on Shakespeare, so I just stopped giving a shit for like a couple of years. But I'm getting back into it.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah, I'd like to see that. I have a Julie Taymor. I remember when I was a theater major for like half a semester or semester in college, and yeah, we like everyone was in love with Julie Taymor because I think a lot of people had seen her Broadway stuff or
Yeah.
whatever. The only thing I'd ever seen from was Across the Universe, and I remember it was another. I felt really
always
alienated in
forget that was
yeah.
her.
I didn't like. I mean, I just remember not liking it in high school. And I was like this is the brilliant. Like this is this person.
Yeah.
And I had never seen anything else by her. But
Yeah.
I'm watching
Why?
actually Fool's Fire, actually an upcoming podcast episode.
Oh,
Really weird puppet thing she did in like 1991.
Okay. Yeah, Julie Taymor loves a puppet. She's why we have Lion King.
You are gonna love. I think I talked about this. I'm gonna keep. Where the hell did this? Oh, Conspirators of Pleasure. This is. There's puppets in this, and
I love a puppet.
It's there. There is a BDSM puppet scene in this.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, we should almost do a live. This would be a good live. Like I almost
There's-
kind of be a. We should do a live
Yeah.
watch of this for you. That'd be really funny. A
That
commentary.
would be really fun. I
Yeah.
like that idea. Also, there is a puppet version of Titus Andronicus, which delights me.
Okay.
It was in Chicago, and I think like I don't know, sometime in the early 2000s, they did like an Avenue Q-esque Titus, and I was like, that's really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, this guy, Conspirators of Pleasure, is I think he's one of the biggest film geniuses I've ever seen. Jan Svankmajer. He did Alice and Faust. If you've ever seen, they're kind of more well. He's a stop motion guy, Slovakian guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's the movie is completely. It'd actually be great to do commentary on because there's no dialogue. It's all.
Yeah.
It's
we'll come
all
back.
just.
Let's do it. We'll do it next
The
time.
sound design's really good. It's
Okay.
like if you like the stuff in Secretary and Crash, like it goes crazy with the sound design, and yeah, they like there's a scene where this lady's like whipping apart it, literally. Yes.
That was really loud.
There's a guy with a kink in that movie for like textures and brushes, and he's
Okay.
like the whole movie he's like if he sees a lady with a fox around her neck, like he will cut off the tail and like add it to one of his like home.
Can't
Like
just cut off a lady's foxtail. That's so rude.
yeah, he'll stop his car and like leave the keys in it and like go and like try
I feel like
and
this is like ASMR BDSM content.
it's it literally if you're like I'd be fascinated by I'm definitely going to do a video on it on the channel probably pretty soon.
Okay.
Because I'm fascinated by like I don't know if it'd be like so that's actually a question about like sort of like yeah, how did you find the sound design in these two movies? Like did it cuz I joke with a couple friends of mine who are more like audio and texture sensitive
Yeah.
that like they like this could either be the most horrifying experience you've ever seen or like something that it's like oh wow I gotta like pause this movie a couple times to go take care of myself like because they both are very heavy like so I guess like is that I don't know like
I mean I make like one of the things that I do as part of my job is I do erotic audios, and so I'm a big fan of like I don't do like sound effects, like that's something that I generally tend to stay away from, but like I like a good moan, I like a good groan, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I actually fucking Howard Shore Lord of the Rings
Yeah, how about
concerning
that?
hobbits. Fucking Howard Shore did the soundtrack for Crash. What the
What a genius.
fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I actually also I have this really weird I don't want to say it's a neurodivergent thing because I think it's just a me thing. One of my favorite things to do is to mute a movie and put on a different movie soundtrack.
Interesting.
Like I was watching, oh, fuck, what is the name of that movie?
So you
It's
put on the
the
Lord of the Rings score for Crash or what?
no, I did put on the yeah that was pretty fun. No, there's a fuck. What is the name of that movie? It's the movie about the guy who like invented kung fu, and he like worked with Bruce Lee. And there's like
Hitman?
a yeah, Ip Man.
Yeah.
That's the one, Ip Man. But there's a scene in Ip. I think it's like Ip Man 3 because we were watching our way through the franchise. And there's a scene in Ip Man 3 where like the gangster guys come to like burn down the school and he like has to save the school, but it pairs perfectly. I mean, uncannily perfectly with the battle music from West Side Story. And
Oh, cool.
it's wild how good it works. And so I like doing that. But yeah, I was really interested in the soundtrack to Crash because it was like that weird, like existential
Yeah.
noir electric guitar. And I was like, I wonder
Loved
what
it.
happens if you put on like porno music. Like, I wonder what
Well,
happens if you put on
I'm
different.
probably going to do a video. I don't know if you've seen Days of Thunder. I just did a video on that, like a gay highlight of video of that on my channel for, because it's like it's the movie they made after Top Gun. I don't know if you ever seen. Yeah, they so it's really gay. It's made by all the same, it's Tom Cruise and the same director and producers, and it's as gay as Top Gun.
It's
So I kind of want to put the Crash
okay.
music over that because there's
Yeah?
a lot of homoeroticism in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about what.
Homoeroticism in Top Gun? What are you talking
Right.
about? I can't
Oh.
imagine a single scene.
I'm gonna put the Crash music over Days of Thunder for sure.
Do
Yeah.
it.
Maybe I'll try the Lord of the Rings music over Crash concerning hobbits.
The
Less
some
of
of
a
the most
fantasy.
iconic. Well, it's funny because earlier you were like, "Yeah, this world were elves," and I was like, "Howard Shore."
Yeah.
But
He also
yeah,
did what's the movie with Martin Scorsese that's actually his view, like I honestly, this really impressed me, the score that he had, because he's done Lord of the Rings and then he did this, which is totally different. He
yeah,
also did After Hours with Marty Scorsese, which is it's like all synthesizer, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like
Have you
different.
seen the doc? I will answer about Secretary in a second, but I'm gonna forget this question because I have the ADHD. Nobody knows. Nobody's noticed so far. We're really
Yeah.
on track.
Yeah.
But have you seen the documentary about John Williams that just came out?
No, is there? I love
It's
John Williams.
fantastic because it turns out that John Williams is like accidentally successful. Like John Williams was just a dude who liked music and he was like raised in kind of a musical family. And it's this really beautiful, like I felt like, not that I'm John Williams famous or John Williams talented, but as a creative person who kind of stumbled my way into this thing that I am now doing, I felt this really profound sense of kinship with John Williams because he just talks about like, yeah, like I took this job and because of this job I got good at like writing really fast, and because of this job I got good at switching genres, and because of this job, and it's just all of these like weird experiences he had in his life kind of led up to the moment where he started working with Steven Spielberg. Yeah, you should check it out. It's really good. And also like
Yeah,
Howard Shore and fucking John Williams, fucking icons.
great. Yeah, his JFK score, his Catch Me If You Can score, his Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter. I mean, you could go.
Yeah,
He's the goat, I
all of
think,
them,
for me.
all of them. Yeah, it's like
him and
every,
Bernard Herrmann.
yeah, like every single like famous movie theme is like one of like three people. I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
prolific.
Yeah,
And my answer. Oh,
Max
sorry,
Steiner.
you go.
Oh no, after you. Sorry,
Oh, I was gonna say, and my answer about the Secretary sound design is I have no opinions at all because I never thought about it. I've only just ever watched. I thought a lot about the production design, but I have no opinions on the sound design. It's fine. I can hear what's being said. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, the like all the like the leather and the touching and like the white out and like that type of stuff. I thought they did like they made office work sexy.
Yeah.
Which I thought like there's a lot of sexy things about like that sort of classic office work. In the same way, honestly, I kind of wonder, be interesting, like, you know, everyone's like, could you do a work from home version of this movie? Probably not. But again,
Secretary?
alienation of like, I mean, you could, but I mean, like, it would be
You
harder
could.
in the same way that like with Crash, one thing, like, it's just the tactile nature of like all the the cars and like the radio stuff and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it makes me yearn for when everything just wasn't like a flat touch screen, right? There's a lot of knobs. There's a lot of,
I'm gonna pitch you right now my work from home secretary movie that
okay.
absolutely works start to finish. Okay, so it's COVID. Okay.
Okay.
And this girl gets a job. We'll say it's a guy. You know what? We're gonna be progressive. We're gonna say it's a
Yeah.
guy, right?
Gender swap.
We do a little gender swap, right? But there's like this guy, and he's like struggling. He's struggling with COVID. He's struggling with like whatever, right? And he gets a job for this like kind of dommy mommy boss, right? And
Have you seen Baby Girl before you go too far?
I have not seen Baby Girl yet. People keep asking me to see Baby Girl,
Okay.
but I have a thing about milk.
Okay.
I don't like milk. Milk grosses me out. And I've heard that there's like a really pivotal scene involving milk. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably going to survive.
It's a hybrid work. I mean, it's in office, but
Yeah.
there's some work from home stuff.
But like a lot of people, especially now because of like the rise of like social media and virtual and digital communication, there are a lot of people who have like online dom sub relationships. And so like I could really see an argument for a movie that is kind of based in that like COVID, we can't touch each other, we can't be together. And like even I think you could do a lot with touch and have it be like a really tactile thing where like maybe they're sending each other sex toys or like, you know, like lingerie or some kind of thing, or like here's a shibari book and some rope and you have to tie yourself up because like I can't be there with you. And then have the end of the movie be like, okay, lockdown is over and they can finally like touch each other. And so then you get this finally like they're finally together and they finally get to like share this energy in the same space. I would watch it. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
That's my pitch.
That's
I'm really good
fascinating. I
at
hadn't thought
that.
about-
That's one of my like weird superpowers is I'm really good at movie pitch.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm never
Do
going to
it.
be, I want to be like a writer, but I just want to be like the guy who's like, what if it was like this? And then I just piece out, but I
I'll
get
film
paid.
it.
Okay.
If you can get me like a couple $100, I'm pretty good at filming things on the cheap.
Okay.
It's actually
I'll be
funny.
in it. I'll be the
yeah.
boss.
I didn't even think to ask about that, but I probably should have contacted you. Well, I did my first like full short maybe a year and a half ago,
Cool.
but I think you might find it fascinating. It was certainly fascinating for me because it was like I'm in the process of redoing it. It'll be recutting it for a variety of reasons, working on a big video on it, but doing it for like TikTok. But it came about because I was I had found like in the early days of like when ChatGPT and like AI was coming out, I found like there was like when the image stuff was coming out, I was like, I gotta know about this. And I just love, that was about to sound really rude. I loved different people on the internet and just like I was just like fascinated by what people were doing. And so I found this Discord that had like people where like it was like one of the few places where you could sort of generate not safe for work content.
Yeah.
And so, but you had by nature of it being a Discord, it was like in a queue because it was like really early. And you had to make it public.
Yeah.
So I would hang out in there, and that was the reason for my first short because I saw people spending like 18, 20 hours a day in this thing, just like writing their prompts in.
Yeah.
And the short I have, like some of the was like, because I'm redoing some of the voices, but it's like prompt: full body photograph of a hot young male, 25, 30 years old, wearing skin transparent aqua green latex, see-through, translucent, bondage collar, sneakers, perfect eyes looking at camera, dripping sweat, skin pores, dark plain background. And it was like these people putting like their thing and trying to dial it in like this really constructed language on there.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you. I don't know if you've probably seen a lot of those images, but I started collecting like a bunch of these, like, because they would fuck up because it was the early days of ChatGPT and these image stuff.
Yeah.
And so like they'd be trying to be like Renaissance huge pair of tits or something, but it would just be a single, like a grotesque,
just a single boob.
Yeah, just a single boob with feet, like right. That's like ornate and like whatever else, or it'd be like the skin see-through, translucent, like like covered in cum or whatever. It'd be like the whole guy would have like a sheen on it, like he was like just emerging from the water, like in a still photo, and you captured of it. So yeah, it is.
That's
sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm curious as somebody who is like really active in like film and you're so knowledgeable about like old movies and like how like practical effects and that kind of stuff. Like, what is your stance on AI? Are you pro? Are you con? I feel like it's like it's nuanced. I feel like there's nuance to it, but it's so much, especially in like the TTRPG community, there's so much like it is vehemently anti-AI. It is, like that is the general consensus of the community. And it's just, I don't like, what do you think? Where do you fall?
So,
No wrong answers. I'm just genuinely
yeah,
curious.
no, I'm working on a whole, as part of like recutting the movie, because the movie concerns like, concerns AI. I'm working on a video that will be like a long elaboration of my thoughts, because I have like a fairly, just due to like my day job, I have like a fairly extensive like knowledge of it, and like about like how it works, and like I was, early and like everything.
Yeah.
But for art, I think it's generally, I fall on the side of like, this is abhorrent, generally speaking. And I also think like I don't think it's likely, like, there's certain things I don't think are ever going to happen. Like, you hear videos about like, oh, what if everyone had like their own version of Law and Order SVU, and it's like, now you have your SVU that's like, maybe it's a little bit kinkier, is more submissive, because it's like you just turn that knob up, but mine is like more cowboy hat, because I would just like westerns or something,
Just Stabler to cowboy hat.
But what that experience is like, that is fundamentally antithetical to the idea of art, which I think is about like communication and sharing. Like, part of the reason, I mean, maybe it's just me having this podcast, is like Trade Movies is like deliberately named so, because like there's nothing like, one of the best things you can do to sort of like get to know someone is like watch a couple movies with them. It's like a fundamentally social experience, where it's like, oh, you saw the same thing in Crash, then Secretary.
Yeah.
But if we don't have that, then it's just us telling each other about our fantasy team. Like, there's nothing more boring than listening to someone talk about their fantasy football team if they don't play in the league with you. It's like, oh, I had Patrick Mahomes and he did well, and then I had to take the Steelers defense, but they're on a thing. It's like, what do you like? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care at all. I don't care. I don't care. So I'm pretty anti that. But having said that, I have a lot of empathy for a lot of this stuff, especially pertains to like kink or sex or relationships with AI, just for the people, like the necessity of it. Because like, obviously we're alienated technological world, a lot of the stuff that sort of like Crash and honestly Secretary touched on. But the reason I did my short was because I started reading these Reddit posts when they banned the sex bot. Actually, they like, there was that early sex bot where you could like sex with Chat GPT or sex with like a thing, and then Apple and Google banned it. And the Reddit, there was like 10,000 Reddit posts and comments of like, and the stuff was like heartbreaking to read. It's like, I'm a really lonely guy. Like, I'm a solo caretaker of my elderly parent who's like, she's dying of dementia and Alzheimer's, and like, I don't have time to date. I don't have money to date. I live out in the country. It's like all these things are like, damn, this is like an extremely lonely person. And he's like, the only time I kind of felt connected with it was like, I had this thing that I could like actually have a connection and conversation with. And from one day to the next, it just got, kiboshed. And so like, that was the short I did was sort of like kind of exploring a lot of that. But I don't know, there's some like I don't like it for art. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like I agree. Like I really hate the idea of like stealing from artists, and I think that whole, even as like how we train AI is like dicey in terms of like morality. But I also know like one of the things that I hear a lot, especially from neurodivergent folks, is that Chat GPT, like those models, are giving them access to therapy in a way that they've never had before. And there's of course the like, then there's that like, okay, but like, is the AI going to be good enough at therapy to like not do damage and like that kind of stuff? But I know that there's a lot of people who are using it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I think I can have my own opinions about like stolen art and the ethics of it. But when so many people in a community are using it and using it as a tool, I think like, even if you disagree, which I kind of do, I think even if you disagree, like you got to be knowledgeable about it. You have to understand it, because like, I have people who like I work with who have come and said, oh my God, like I fired my therapist. I'm just using Chat GPT now because like I can ask all the questions that I want, and it knows so much more, and I can delve and delve and delve, and it's never going to get mad at me. And it helps me like understand these like therapeutic modalities. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell them like, don't do that, you know? And it's,
I would say don't do that. That's not, I don't think that's like if I had a recommendation, just as far as I understand the therapeutic relationship, having spent it as a person who spends more on therapy than my car payment every month, which I'm fortunate to be able
Honestly,
to do.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's shout out my therapist who's great. But yeah, I don't think it can.
It seems
well, part of the like
dicey, dangerous. Well, I don't know the word.
Well, it's like, we like my therapist and I talk about like bringing stuff into therapy. Like, it was actually a big moment for me personally. Like, when he had done something that like I didn't necessarily like, or like I think it was like he was like a little bit late to a meeting or like something, and I'm always perpetually late, but it's like I'm paying a lot of money for it, and like we didn't necessarily go on. So I was like, it kind of like had this thing of like, please be on time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was totally not even, their fault, but the way he's like, yeah, let's talk about it. And it was like a thing of like, that is sort of a practice.
Yeah, like practicing that like conflict resolution and like communication.
And developing a relationship, which you're not going to really get with So it's like that I would be wary about. And it's also it's just the practice of developing a relationship with someone over long term that's like not going to be abusive or abandon you or any of these other things that people variously deal with, like
that's like
traumatic.
Sorry, I just interrupted because I got excited.
No,
but like that's what I worry about is like I hear like all these people using ChatGPT as like their therapist or like and I'm like, what happens if like the laws change? What happens if like it's no longer accessible, or they're like, nope, you can't do mental health conversations at all? Like that's why I worry. It's like I really worry.
No HIPAA protection.
I've been.
What if they get subpoenaed?
Yeah, it's like I've been really surprised with the number of like just comments and stuff that I see from people being like, yeah, I use it as therapy now, and I'm like. Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend that.
Like I was like, as a famous person on the internet, I have no opinion, but I'm going to have one inside my soul. Yeah.
Having said that, I will say the general trend of like, it is definitely, like, so much of living in America, I think, again, now I'm going to get expressly political, is just about who gets punished, like who suffers the pain.
Yeah.
Like, I've never my explanation, or not explanation, but my thought on like, I used to live in New York City or, various places, and like if there'd be like a crazy person on the subway, or, I don't know if that's the right term, but someone on the subway who's like being disruptive or like whatever else, it's like, you'd hear these people be like, well, we should just throw that in jail. It's like, really, it's like the problem is not that person. The problem is we don't take care of people who are alternatively mentally healthy in various ways. You might be having a crisis. We don't have the structure to deal with it. So it's like, who gets hurt? Do they
no social supports?
Do they get hurt, or does a business owner get hurt? And it's like, you got to choose one. It's like, basically what you're saying is like, you're choosing that. Well, that person gets hurt. Yeah. It's like that person gets hurt as opposed to like a business owner or like someone else gets hurt. It's not you're making a choice that no one gets hurt. Someone's getting hurt. Yeah. And you're just sort of shifting it. So I've never, it's like, when people say like, oh, we should round them up or blah blah blah, this or that, it's like, well, really we should make sure that they have the resources they need, and like, but
exactly
until you do that. So I think about that with like art and therapy, less so on the art side because I'm kind of an absolutist there, but even like with therapy, it's like I can say, I can say like, well, you shouldn't do it, but not everyone can afford to spend like hundreds of dollars a month on therapy. Very few people can.
Because again, we lack social structures to support people. Like, of course they're turning to ChatGPT because nobody can afford insurance, and insurance won't cover therapy, and therapists are not like accepting insurance anymore because they don't make any money. Like, it is just a problem on top of a problem on top of a problem, and it's just like something.
But the downside is, as that gets more accepted, like if people, it's like, oh, societally accepted, like, yeah, you can just talk to ChatGPT instead of therapists, and it sort of puts like a downward pressure on like the economic viability of being a therapist.
Yeah.
Because like none of this stuff exists in a vacuum, right? So it's like maybe 5-10 years down the line, health insurance companies are like, well, we don't need to cover therapy anymore because like you can just ChatGPT it because like it's not great. But the thing, like for my day job that I've learned, like it's actually, this is like a I never want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. Day job stuff. So the term disruption, right? Like everyone term, like, in tech or like whatever else. The term disruption is very widely misunderstood, misused. I've had to study this for my day job because I hate it. But it specifically refers to like this Harvard Business School guy, this guy Clayton Christensen, wrote this book about disruption where he talks about, it's not about like, when people think of disruption, it's like, oh, I'm disrupting the thing by now we have electric vehicles instead of gas cars, and we're disrupting this, we're disrupting that. Specifically, the original term comes from, it's him analyzing these different like business, like areas of business industries or whatever. And the key theme is it's about when good enough beats better. And it's like when cheaper stuff, like good enough and cheaper beats better generally. And it's like a trend that happens in industries. So I really worry about that because like the approach of his, like the example he uses, like he noticed in steel mills, it's like there was this new way to produce steel in the 70s. I can't remember the exacts of it, but it's like the existing steel companies, like at the lower level, the lowest level of steel, it's like they were able to charge $4, but they only made like $1 in profit. And so these new sort of steel ways of making steel popped up, and they were able to make it for $2. And so the existing steel company said, well, fuck it, we only make $1 in profit on that, so let's just remove it, let the lower guys have it. And then the new guys learned how to make the next level of steel, and eventually like the existing steel people's like profit kept increasing, because it's like they look good to investors, because it's like, yeah, our profit rates are increasing because we are only making this like new good steel, like this, like these upper levels of steel, but this other company's like slowly eating away the point of the revenue. So the general point of like disruption is like good enough beats better if it's cheaper. And so I worry about that with stuff like the therapy, because it's like there's a general trend. I mean, it's
so
good enough.
So
what if it's good enough, right? If it's like, if it's because it's good enough and it's cheap. So generally speaking, from a trend wise, it's probably going to, like, if a therapy is actually like better, but eventually we probably will lose out on a fair amount of like actual therapists if this becomes like a widely accepted thing. And so then your moral question is like, let's say you don't have money to go to therapy now. It's like, by doing this and by contributing to it, are you actually contributing to like the general sort of malaise of therapy as a whole?
Yeah.
And is that even something that you need to consider with, or that's even like the third tenet of Marxist alienation, right? Having to experience like every relationship in society through money, and not being able to view it of like, I just need to fucking not freak out when I hear a loud sound because I have PTSD.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I have complicated thoughts.
Capitalism.
You're right. Yeah.
Just everything ends with just shaking your fist at capitalism, I feel like.
Yeah. Everything ends with, if we could just, be generally more decent in society, then we wouldn't have to, I wouldn't have to worry about therapy as a practice disappearing, because people get like this sort of version that really isn't as good, because therapy is really complex. How do you know if it's a good therapist or a bad therapist, or it's a good therapy experience or bad therapy experience?
Fun fact, not to shill for my own content, but I'm literally starting a series about that in like a month or two, like, because so many people ask me that, like, how do I know if I'm the therapy that I'm doing is right? What kinds of, because there's different kinds of therapy. There's different ways of navigating through those different kinds of therapies. There's more like somatic, like being in your body techniques. There's more like, introspective, intellectualized. And a lot of those techniques don't work for neurodivergent people. And so they go to therapy and it's all like talk-based intellectualizing, which we all are doing. Not broad generalization, but like a lot of neurodivergent people do. It's like, no, I know why I feel this way. I know why this is happening, but I would like to not feel this way. How does that happen? And so like that's a topic that I'm really interested in. And so we're talking about, do we do an episode about like the dangers of AI therapy? Because I kind of want to warn people. Like, I feel like I kind of have like an obligation to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess last question before we get into fits, because I want to make sure and get into those, would be probably the relationship between neurodivergence, ADHD, hyperfixation, and kink. Because I know that's probably square in your wheelhouse, because I have a theory. I've talked about this theory. I haven't made a video on it. Maybe I'll use this podcast as an excuse to make a video. I think personally that the more you can tell what a director is into sexually, kink-wise, whether or not, generally speaking, it tends to have like a linear relationship positive with how good the movie is. And like Tarantino is the classic one. Like, you can definitely say, like, doesn't
he really like feet?
He loves feet.
Guy? Yeah.
Yeah, he loves feet, and so it's like the way it's like almost like a it's like kind of like a brown M&Ms thing for me. You know the story about like the brown M&Ms for Van Halen? Listeners, if you don't know this famous story, it's like in their rider, like the thing that they would give to concert arenas, like before they would play a show, I think it was Van Halen would put like only no brown M&Ms in like the candy bowl or whatever, and then they would know as a sign of like if there were brown M&Ms in the bowl, then it's probably likely they didn't like do the rest of the stuff that was actually important, like plugging in the amps the right way, making the sound levels are good. So it was like a a way to test. I kind of think about that with like, if I see a director that's really into feet, it's like, well, he's probably comfortable putting like his other maybe like fixations or like things on screen, because like, he might have the same, like he might have so I'm kind of curious, like, does kink exist on the same scale? Like, I really like cinematography and lighting and like, this classic dramatic, like blue, yellow, Russell Mitty style lighting. Does that come from the same place at all? Like just like an interest or like a fixation, or Dr. Cate?
I know. I'm really trying to think of how to answer this question.
You said it like it just comes from anywhere, right? Like it's not necessarily like we talked a lot about. It's not necessarily a trauma thing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like want to be clear about that, and like it can
This is-
come. So I'm just
This is also one that ruins lives when I drop this fact, but recent studies have shown that at least
Okay.
some kinks are hereditary. So if you're into it, there's
Oh.
a chance that your parents are into it, which I think is
it's like
hilarious.
epigenetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, research is new on that, like, and it's not like a for sure true all the time thing, but
Would make sense, right?
yeah, but I mean, it's also kink is one of those things where, like, a lot of it has to do with a lot of different factors, right? Like, you're talking not only about just like what are your general like sensory preferences and your general like, yeah, sensory preferences. That's how I'll say that. Like your sensory preferences, but also like sociologically, like what is your background, right? Like if you're a person who, like me, who was raised in a very like Catholic strict environment, there may be some element of that winds up in kink, like how did you play as a child, right? Were you playing cops and robbers, like that kind of thing. There's also like more like, again, like to talk about like edge play, there's also like something called race play where it's, a lot of times like there are, like just race play, right? Just whatever you're
Yeah.
thinking about, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so, and we see that as well with things like there's some people who are into like Jews and Nazis, right? Like that kind of like
Oh, there's
like
a movie
very
about that I have.
yeah, they're like very subversive, right?
Have you seen that movie? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Another episode. We're gonna have to do a whole
I want to
series.
say Inglorious Bastards. No, that's not it.
No. It's I know it as Dirk Bogarde, The Night Porter.
No, I don't know.
Okay. So I'm going to interrupt. This is my little.
Okay.
Got to
okay,
interrupt.
Okay. Go.
Night Porter is a 1974. I'm going to bring it over here so I can look at the camera. 1974 erotic psychological war drama, co-written and directed by Liliana Cavani, so a lady in the 70s, which is already pretty rare.
Interesting. Yeah.
Set in Vienna in 1957, the film centers on the sadomasochistic relationship between a former Nazi concentration camp officer, Bogarde, and one of his inmates, played by Charlotte Rampling.
That's fucking crazy. What year did that come out?
1974.
Wow.
The film's theme of sexual and sadomasochistic obsession and its use of Holocaust imagery have made the film controversial since its initial release, dividing critics over its artistic value. So just so you're aware of my house, my one of my buddies who lives with us, my best friend, basically my third brother, one of my housemates got that for another housemate as a Christmas gift. It's like, well, because
I'm very interested in seeing that movie. Holy shit, yeah, that's subversive as fuck.
a couple other erotic ones. Dirk Bogarde is like the king of them. He was in The Servant, which is one of the early gay queer movies that is about the psychological relationships among the four central characters and examine issues relating to social class. Written by Harold Pinter, who's a huge freak.
Yeah.
Shout out Pinter. Who also did Comfort of Strangers. Right, theater person, right?
Love a Pinter play. Love a Pinter play.
So The Servant, Comfort of Strangers is actually at 19. I don't know if you've seen that one with Christopher Walken, who plays a bisexual man who like is kind of in like a weird consensual but not relationship. He wants to be in a relationship, but he's also obsessing.
Seen that. Yeah,
it's good.
Paul
Schrader.
Yeah.
I
forget what we were talking
we
about.
we got to get you back. We got to get the
I forget what happened. What were we talking about? We were talking about something. Oh, kink and being open about your kinks, right?
Well, more about like the relationship between like hyperfixation or neurodivergent hyperfixation and like kink and all that, I guess. Like, is there like an alignment between like, because I think about you when you're saying like, oh, I'm going to get hyperfixated on something. It's like, is the same type of like, are people who are neurodivergent, is there a higher propensity to be into kink? That might be a more straightforward question.
See, immediately I have to like start to throw in asterisks and caveats, right?
Trying to get you to answer the most controversial stuff.
I know, right? Just be like, Catieosaurus was wrong. Like, Catieosaurus says. I think the thing that I would say is important to say at the top that not all neurodivergent people are kinky, and not all kinky people are neurodivergent. That's
very important to say,
right?
Yeah.
That's very important. However, we do see a lot of overlap between kinky / queer / gender nonconforming people and neurodivergency as a whole. Now, there's a lot of questions about this, right? Like, are we inherently born kinkier? Are we inherently born queerer? Are we inherently born, more gender nonconforming than like the neurotypicals, but also like the distinction between neurotypical and neurodivergent also gets immediately like gray area dicey. So I'm just not going to touch that one because I don't have time. But we see the studies kind of show that like neurodivergent people do tend to fall into those categories. And so then the question is, you know, are we born this way or is it thrust upon us? Are we more likely to delve into communities like kinky folks or like gender nonconformity, because we are already like eschewing social roles. We already kind of look at society and go, well, there's these rules here that like just are kind of got made up. So if I'm you know, like a male identifying person and I want to wear a skirt, I'm just going to, right? Does that count as gender nonconformity? Does it not? Right. So there's a lot of questions about how we even interpret data, how we even look at data, like that kind of stuff. But like kind of to go back to what I said earlier, kink is a tool, you know, kink is a tool. A vibrator is a tool, you know, a blindfold, which I happen to have one right here, is a tool, you know? And so neurodivergency in particular, and caveat on top of a caveat, when we talk about neurodivergency, we are talking about the wide spectrum of brain differences. A lot of times we use neurodivergency as a shorthand for things like ADHD and or autism, but neurodivergency is much more broad. We're talking about schizophrenia, like your cousin. We're talking about Down syndrome. We're talking about bipolar. We're talking about depression, anxiety, learning.
BPD, OCD.
Yeah, all of those. BPD, OCD, all of those things. And so for some neurodivergent people, you know, who fall under that umbrella, sensory issues are a big thing. For other people who would technically fall under the neurodivergent umbrella, they haven't spent a day of their life thinking about sensory issues because that's not how their neurodivergency manifests. So I think it's really important to kind of caveat, like, we really can't paint with a broad brush. But what I have found in my work is that if you are a person who deals with executive functioning issues, if you are a person who deals with sensory issues, kink in general tends to be a really useful tool in your toolbox. And I don't want to like reiterate what I just already said, but because it is the place where you can control sensory input and sensory output. You can decide what the sheets are going to feel like, what the rope, you know, do you like rough rope? Do you like jute? Do you like silk rope? Do you like cotton rope? You've got options, right? Do you like your blindfold to be, you know, puffy and soft? Do you like it to be lace? Do you like it to be cotton? Do you like it to be microfiber if you're a psychopath? You know, like that kind of stuff. And because
that seems texturally bad.
I know, texturally disgusting.
I cannot wait for you to watch Conspirators of Pleasure. You really gotta do it.
I'm like hyped up for it now. I'm like, yeah. But yeah, you know, do I like to be bound tightly? Do I like to be bound loosely? Do I even need to be bound at all, or is it more about the giving up of control, the inviting someone into this intimate moment of, I am overwhelmed, I get overstimulated, I'm so tired of having to like wear this mask and deal with this overstimulation, so I'm going to close my eyes and you're going to do whatever you want to me, and I'm just going to allow myself to enjoy it and receive that, you know, intimately with pleasure, right? So I don't think it's factually correct to say that, you know, I think I said this already too, but like, I don't think it's factually correct to say that like all kinky people are neurodivergent or that all neurodivergent people are kinky. But I think that if you sort of boil kink down to its core elements, it makes a lot of sense, because a dom-sub relationship is essentially outsourced executive functioning.
Yeah. And
so it works for a lot of people. And I think that there are even a lot of folks who, not necessarily like in a dom sub dynamic, but there are absolutely couples out there who like one partner reminds the other partner to take their medication, or did you drink water today, or did you remember to eat today? And that's a power dynamic, you know.
Ladies, I'm good at that. Just out there, FYI, if you need someone to remind you to drink water, my bare minimum qualifications is.
But yeah, you know, and so I think I don't think, I get asked this question all the time, and I always give the most like wishy-washy answer. But because I just think like I was playing with yarn earlier, but I always feel like Charlie and It's Always Sunny, because I'm like, it's all connected. But yeah, that's my answer. Is it's an incredibly useful tool. I think a lot of people are drawn to it. I think a lot of people find their way to it. whether or not it's a formalized like dom sub relationships with like punishments or funishments, as I like to call them, you know, that kind of stuff, or if it's more of just like yeah, my partner reminds me to take my meds and, you know, asks me if I ate today.
Yeah.
It's all
Fascinating.
soup. It's all soup.
Yeah. All right. So we will be right back. We'll be right back with Fitz, and I will see you on the other side of this. All right. Welcome back. We have discussed lots of things off call that are various degrees.
I changed my clothes.
Yeah.
It was a continuity error. I got hot. It was I was trying to wear my like cute secretary outfit, but I got too hot. So
yeah, we had a very deep discussion.
Yeah. Definitely deep.
Yeah.
In certain senses of the word.
Yeah.
What are we doing, Jeff?
Okay.
What
So
are we looking at?
This is Fitz, and we are going to go through Secretary first.
Okay.
It's actually maybe even should be called Fits and Shots because
Fits and Shots.
Yeah, Fits and Shots maybe, but this is just screen capped a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about costumes, what people like, backgrounds. So it starts off with, again, this is like the textural stuff. This is the I think it's inside of a typewriter.
Yeah, it's the inside of like the little typewriter.
Yeah, both of these movies had very, I don't want to say underwhelming credits because I think they both worked, but like good credits, but simple. Yeah. And then it opens up.
Iconic. Immediate iconic.
I thought about showing up to the podcast like this.
I did too.
Yeah.
So I was like, would that be weird? I was like, I have all of the necessary supplies within arm's reach, but I was like, I don't know. I haven't met Jeff like super a lot, so maybe not.
Yeah. This would be, I mean, I do this with a hockey stick when I played hockey. Like this is how I stretch my,
this is how
like a band. Yeah.
Do it with a baseball bat when I played softball.
Yeah. It's a great stretch.
Ah, absolutely iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Great fit.
Yeah.
And then I swear to God, we were talking about the set design before. I swear this office changed styles like 1,000 times. There's about 1 million different styles in this office.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really like tracking is the plants in the hallway and how the plants sort of like align with their relationship and how their relationship is going. Yeah. But the thing that I like about this fit is, okay, I should also tell your dear listeners that I have a background in costume design and this is my fucking wheelhouse. So let's fucking go. But again, like I think we talked about this earlier, but like because Lee is narrating, this is like we enter in media res of like, this is her life. This is what she's doing. And so we know she's safe and okay. She's consenting to it. She's having a good time. Mm-hmm. She's smoking hot. We see her in this like really nice, really sexy outfit as contrasting to what we see in a lot of the movie. And so there's this general sense of like, while you're watching the story, it's like, you know, she's going to be okay. She's going to end up kinky, but she's going to end up okay. And I like that. Like, I like that it sets the audience up for this sense of sort of like safety in that, yeah, this might be like a movie about kink or whatever, but like at the end, she's just living her life. She's okay. Yeah. She's fine.
This reminded me, have you seen Black Narcissus? The 1947. We'll add it to, okay, so
we'll add it to the list.
Not shame. I'm gonna guilt pressure Kate. So live on the pod, we should, if we do the movie series, which I totally think we should. Black Narcissus is about the group of the most repressed nuns you've ever seen in your life in 1947 in India. Lots of beautiful matte paintings.
Is that the one? Do they live on a mountain?
They do. Yes.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, there's a lot of this type of
one. Yeah.
Like, I guess it's because it's like, I don't know what like art style this is, but there's a lot of like stuff on the backgrounds that's like that's like
also a really fun thing to do with fucking what's the name? Secretary. That's the word I want. The really fun thing to do with Secretary is to track the orchid imagery, because that's also like another like through line for the whole thing. Yeah. And so like at the end, you're like, oh god, no, it's okay. Go to the next one.
No. Go ahead.
This fucking frumpy ass frump outfit. Fucking. Oh no, I was just gonna say, but like the orchids are like. There's a lot of showing and not telling in Secretary that I really like, especially because James Spader's character is so conflicted. He's so conflicted and angsty. But like we see all of these moments of tenderness, and we see like he keeps the flowers alive. He cares for the flowers. Yeah. There's like the scene where for years I watched Secretary. I was like, why the fuck do they have this scene in the movie? But it's him catching a mouse and he lets the mouse go outside. And I realized it's because what they're showing us is that he's gentle. He's kind. He's not a violent person. He's not an angry person. And I think that's something that is really important to keep in mind while you're watching it, because it's so easy to be like, oh, he's violent, he likes to hit women, or like he's damaged or whatever. But it's like, No,
No,
there's a care and a gentleness and a
yeah.
delicacy to him that I really love that they include that.
Well, there's a fascinating overlap between like, you know, questions of like impotency in both movies too. Like he's definitely like he gets kind of alphaed by Elias Codius, and like he's kind of getting taught how to be like in Crash, at least how to be like in a way he's kind of taught to being in like in this one he's like he needs his thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not trying to be pejorative with like alpha or, you know, like whatever, but like it's
like,
just it's the stories about him too, which I thought was fascinating. And
I have a thing about this next one too.
okay,
the fit is terrible. Thumbs down, flop.
honestly, I just love the sky, the film
the sky is really
sky,
good.
the green.
Well,
like
the doctor is really interesting because across the board she interacts with the doctor, she interacts with her shitty boyfriend, she interacts with her dad, she interacts with James Spader, and she interacts with the typing teacher who's got like the ruler, who's like doing the like sexy ruler thing. But like if you watch the scene, she like goes like she's clinging to this doctor, and so they set up right away that there's like this
need,
you know, and then people get mad because they're like, the women don't need to be led, and I'm like, she's not, she's opting into it because she likes it. Like,
yeah, it's also she's like, I don't mean to be like, she's not like a child in that she can't like, I'm not, but she's a child, like she's
there's an immaturity, there's an image, and especially like again the production design, like just her bedroom,
another one that's so good.
Yeah, and another one that we didn't talk about at all, but is one of my favorite scenes, is the laundromat, like the date, when they go on this date, and you're like, oh, it's cute, they're out to dinner, and then the camera like backs up, and you're like, they're at a laundromat, and then it backs up again. That's also an arcade that backs up again, and there's like vending machine, and you're like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah,
and they do that again with dinner at the parents' house with the shitty boyfriends, because they're like eating on two couches around the coffee table, and they're eating takeout, and then the camera backs up and you see that there's a dining room table like in the house, and so it's like they're having this like family dinner in this like uncomfortable weird way because they can't be fucked to have like a nice dinner. And it's just such a commentary on like how this life is not, it seems okay, it seems fine on the surface until you look at it, it's like she's not getting what she wants, she's not getting what she needs. Anyway, fits. I know we're supposed to be talking about fits.
No, absolutely. I mean, you talk about it. It's like it shows how like just genius this movie is. I was actually going to call out kind of something similar along with like the way they portray the mom. She really doesn't have that many lines or like that, but the writing of it is so brilliant because it's all told implicitly, right? It's like the fact that her mom's just sort of waiting outside the law firm for hours, or like,
she doesn't want to be home.
She doesn't want to be home, but also there's like a little bit of like maybe over like, you know, like she kind of likes the fact that Maggie is there a bit much, and you know but I love how they don't spend too much time on it, to be honest. Like you get all of it just in the sort of performances.
Well, and you get one moment of violence from the dad. There's one moment where he pushes her, and you see that, and then that's when she like takes the teapot and she like burns herself as a response to that. But I think it's really interesting because it's like, it's also I don't know, like Maggie, like I guess Lee's character, or Lee comes into this relationship where she is protected and she is safe, you know, and her mom's like, are you sure? Maybe you should marry the shitty guy who's just kind of underwhelming, you know? Also,
speaking of score, I forgot because you said you didn't notice the score. One of my favorite scores ever.
It's really good.
And or you said the sound design, but the score in this, so didn't mean to put word. Yeah, that's going to be a clip from it. Kate hates the score of Secretary. No,
I hate the score of Secretary, and I don't believe in consent. Clip me, bitches. Please don't.
Please don't. Angelo Badalamenti. You know what else he famously? He is the guy. David Lynch. He is.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes like, and the thing we've like, my buddy, like I probably I don't know if you know that, like it was such a meme between me and my best friend, who's like he's a composer, and we love Angelo Badalamenti, and the joke between us has been for years that he's just willing to go wherever you need to go in the music. Like if you drop of the hat because he's used to work with David Lynch, if you're like, all right, he's such a vibes feeling based composer. Right. It's like I need, you know, a pack of cards that's sitting on top of a laptop that's, you know, next to a bed. He'll just be like, I got you. And he'll just immediately do it. So like, you know, I need a sensitive bondage scene or like kind of a girl power thing as she's walking through the park. He's like, no problem. Just instantly does it.
I was thinking about that earlier today. I watched a little bit of it again. Like the score is really good. And I like that it's light. It's not it's not serious. it's serious when it needs to be serious, but there's an element of like levity, of comedy, of like, especially a really good moment is the phone scene where he's like coaching her and like they're having fun. Like they're having fun, and it's this moment of like levity and like shared connection between them, and he's like encouraging her to like be bigger and be bolder and like step into her power. And like the score reflects that, and I think that's like a really special thing. But that dress does suck ass.
This dress does suck ass.
And it doesn't fit her. That's the other thing I love. It's
like
too big on her.
Bat mitzvah dress. But again, I thought it was like, it's good though, because that's the point. Like, it's such good storytelling. This honestly felt like, that was another thing. It felt like, I talk a lot about, like, I'm going to do another video probably by the time you listen to this, it will have been out, on the melodramatic style of Hollywood from like 30s to the 60s, where they, you know, instead of like realism for the dress of like what she might actually wear here, it's like, it's specifically telling a story.
I mean,
you know?
I think it goes back to the fairy tale element, you know, like, you were talking about, do you have her Robin or her Little Red Riding Hood outfit? Do you have that?
I
anywhere?
do. Yeah. I have.
Okay. Because if you have the shot that I want to talk about this.
Well, real quick me and my buddy were laughing the whole movie too while watching this, because like, I don't know if you know there's a YouTube video of how Badalamenti, just wanted to tell you the story of him talking about how he composed with David Lynch the Twin Peaks theme, and like they did it in like one single shot. Great YouTube video, but he talks about like, he's like, David Lynch is like, okay, there's a girl walking in the woods and she's lonely, Angelo, take me there. And he's just sitting they're sitting next to each other piano, and he's just boom, 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 and that was like kind of the Law and Order theme. He doesn't do the Law and Order theme, but he's like, you know. So he's like, starts playing this thing, and David Lynch, he's like, Angelo's telling the story. He's like, oh, like he's describing like a sexual experience. He's like, and David was saying, oh, Angelo, that's so good. Oh yeah, just was like right there. Yeah, you're making me cry, Angelo. But so me and my buddy have just been, for years, it's just been a meta between us, like of just like, oh, you're making me come, Angelo. Just like him and like imagining them having sex. So him doing this like a super sexual movie was a big treat for us.
I love that.
Yeah, this beautiful cinematography, the blue yellow Russell Meddy stuff.
Oh, it's so good.
Then again,
I love his color scheme, and like everything's just like a little sour, a little sad.
Yeah, it really feels like this was like the last. It makes me really sad because like seeing it on film, seeing the production design, the set design, seeing everything like very melodramatic fantasy tell a story. This has more in common of like a 1940s movie than it does like 10 years later, just because the style has changed so much.
Well, and I think honestly, like her costume. Oh God, an entire box of stuff just fell over. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm trying to have a yard sale and it's going really poorly. But like.
That sounds like the start of a joke. ADHD influencer tries to have a yard sale. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like she's so over the top frumpy. She's so over the top. And I think that's one of the things that I think really lends itself to the argument that like, this isn't a real world thing. This isn't like, we're not supposed to be like, oh, this is how we should do kink. It is an exploration of two people who are kinky coming into that. And like, I think her costume, like the costuming is just so good, because it's if you put all the outfits next to each other, like you just see the journey.
Yeah,
you see the journey from like frumpy weirdo to you know, hot and sexy. Oh yeah. But that scene, the lock scene where the mom like puts, or like the lock scene happens and then there's like movie or whatever. But there's there's a part in this movie where she's like, Mom, you can take the lock off, and it happens immediately after the scene where like she really opens up to him and she really like talks about like her self-harm, and he's like, don't do that anymore, and like that kind of stuff.
Chastity belt reference?
No, I think it's that conversation is the first time that they're ever like talking to each other like peers, and they open up to each other. Like it's not just her opening up to him. It's
like that's a sign, like she's a woman now.
Yeah,
though, right?
and like he's unlocked something in her. And I think that there's like this really nice moment of like, Mom, you can take the lock off. And I think it's because like she's like, oh, I know what I want. Like she's like, she figures it out in that moment, and I think it's like really cute.
It also kind of shows like, not every kink comes from trauma or like childhood or like whatever, but having a bike lock in the house because of like some like, you know, being like having, it's kind of a bondagey type. I'm sure there's probably some bike locks out there. Yeah,
because she's locked up the knives because like she doesn't trust her because of like the suicide attempt.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so now we also know that she feels like she can be responsible. She feels like, you know, she's got like this ownership of her I don't know, like her body. Yeah. I guess I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying to be smart. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. Yeah, this is like one of the sound this pen makes. Love it. Definitely put on your strongest headphones next time you watch this, and you'll have
So it's a purple pen because she's a child. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
she's like just a little.
and it's the same as her. You said the Red Riding outfit.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
this
her
is
little
about
purple.
as Little Red Riding.
Okay.
Then
Are they gonna
the
show?
lights
Yes.
here.
Okay. Can I take 5 minutes of your time to rant about this sign?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is my favorite shot in the entire movie
Oh, I'm glad I
because
got
it tells you everything you need to know about E. Edward Grey. Like the fact that there is a sign, the fact that there is like a no vacancy sign for secretaries. That tells us that he goes through secretaries like Kleenex. Like this is a thing. And
Yeah.
then the
He had to have
fact
a
that
sign
the
made.
bulbs, that he had to have a fucking sign made. But
think
not
about
only
that.
that, the fact that the bulbs have been replaced
Oh,
means
yeah.
that like this isn't even like a new sign. This is a sign that has been around for a fucking while, and that is the introduction that we see. Like before we see him, before we see the inside of the office, all we see is this fleeting shot of this sign, and the sign tells the entire story of everything you need to know about this guy. And even the design of the sign, where like the E. Edward Grey section is like protecting the secretary and is like over the secretary, and the secretary is like small, right? Like it's such a good fucking production design moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, and it makes me so happy. That's the end of my rant. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
I get excited.
I love it. I didn't even think about the fact that he has a fucking sign made for Secretary Water.
Yeah,
That's like,
and the bulbs. The
Yeah.
bulbs are what does it for me, because it's like if the sign just existed, I'm like, okay, that's funny, right? But the fact that somebody went in and changed the bulbs and they don't even match, like, fuck, that's good. It's good.
yeah. More
And then
costumes.
she's just wet. She's just wet and soggy. She's a soggy little wet little,
Yeah. She comes in, she gives him the thing.
right?
She
And then, yeah.
fucks up this water.
Which, by the way, never happens in real life. This is another one of those, like, this is a fairy tale, because that's not how
Yeah.
those work. You can't spill the water. They're made so you can't spill the water. That's,
Yeah.
Whatever.
This is a little
And
bit
then,
of a crash moment. She's
little
just got
crash
the one out.
moment.
Yeah.
Little, like, now, and he takes that, like, therapy stance. He's, like, laying on the couch talking to her. Like, so
Yeah.
good.
Oh, I love this is the tactile stuff I loved. And this is
Yeah.
honestly makes me miss, like, everything's a touchscreen now, but I miss the textures on these buttons are so good.
I was just talking about that the other day. Like,
Yeah.
I miss having buttons. But, the bathtub scene is also really interesting because they
Yeah.
could have given us nudity, but they don't.
Yeah.
And they could
Deliberately
have given
opaque.
us nudity, but instead
They
they
did
give
this
us,
to
like,
freak you out. This
Snow
is all
White.
milk cape.
Right? I'm fine with it. It's fine. That's what they use in Singing in the Rain, too.
Really?
That's my fun. Yeah.
Is it milk? I'm just kidding.
The
I was
rain
just-
and Singing in the Rain was milk because it showed up better on screen.
There's this, I don't
It's
want
a
to call
fun-
her a name, but this fucking woman.
Yeah, this fucking bitch. I'll do it. I don't even
Okay.
care. This fucking cunt. What the fuck? Just tell her what a paralegal is. What's your
Yeah.
problem?
Oh my God. That's a
I'm
big pet
glad
peeve
you
of
left
mine.
your eyeshadow in the also
Listeners.
that fucking 80s ass
Yeah.
eyeshadow.
Listeners, please yell at me if I don't name a movie in the description, because I hate when people don't name movies as like a, any type of gatekeeping like that. I will always name a movie that I go over. So feel free to ask. I forgot to do it a couple times, and it's to my great horror and shame. But yeah, then she's got the donuts.
Oh man, this is such a good this whole
Metaphor. What is this?
I mean,
what
this
is
whole
this?
scene
Is it-
penetration.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, I mean, yeah, yes.
But like this whole scene is so good because it's
Yeah.
like this is like the part where he like tests her, and he's like purposely being shitty, and
Yeah.
he wants to see what happens. Like, does she break? Does she cry? Does she quit? And she's like, no, I'm not gonna let this phase me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I think it's also it's weird because I think it's a moment where she really stands up to him.
Yeah.
And he treats her like dog shit in this sequence. And it's like, and he purposely manipulates it so she sees the donuts in the trash, so she knows
Yeah.
that he threw away her gift, like all of that. But she's just like, see you tomorrow.
I think this is
good.
the hottest she is in the whole movie, just for my own taste, because of the, just the crate. Like, if I saw a lady just be like, all right, fuck it, am I going to a dumpster? I have nothing with
like,
dumpsters.
I
and
like
think
it.
would be
She
gross.
gets shit done. The
Yeah.
same with the coffee. Like, she could have just been like, the water's empty, I'll go to the sink. But instead
Yeah.
she's like, not only gonna make you coffee, I'm gonna refill the water cooler. Like, she's fucking.
If I
she's
saw
got
a
her
lady
shit
digging
together.
some stuff out of a dumpster, I'd be like, oh, there's a story
Yeah,
there.
she's
I'd be
getting shit done.
fascinated.
She's
Yeah.
getting shit done, you know?
I'd just be so curious. Her mom's waiting.
Oh my god, she's like, what are you doing?
Love the
Yeah.
blue light here. The cheese.
Also, the fridge that has nothing in it but cheese.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
The bend over.
Yeah, she's just doing a little crawl.
This is a
crawly
little bit
crawl.
of a. I was because I had seen Crash. I thought there was gonna be a Crash moment. I thought I was like, get in there, James. Make it
Nope.
2 out of 2.
No,
But
it's
it
got
doesn't-
you got to hit that slow burn.
Yeah, I know.
it's-
I know. But again,
Man.
yeah, this is like
I watch this movie probably once every like 6 months or so, and every time I'm like, come on, like I'm just waiting for it, and it's just like it's just edging. They just make you wait till the very end.
This is I didn't even notice about the pullout here about like it starts here.
Yeah. If you look, it's like, oh, they're at like this cute dinner, and then you're like, oh, the tablecloth is plastic, the glasses are plastic, they're at a fucking laundromat.
Telling
There's,
stories
like,
through design, right? I mean,
yeah.
he's got the wood, he's got the like the nice the nice plastic.
Yeah. This is one of those really interesting moments where like so he sees her at the laundromat kissing another guy. They've not had a conversation about their relationship. They've not had a conversation about this dynamic, which again, fairy tale versus real life. But after the kiss, that's the first time that he punishes her. That's the first time that he like gets mad at her and he yells at her, and it's like he's not yelling at her about the letters.
I feel like he wouldn't be here though. I feel like this is like I don't know.
It feels a bit.
He should have his own laundry. Like,
it feels contrived, and I'm like, I get it from the sense of like, oh, it's a dry cleaner, the laundromat / dry cleaner. But I was like, I've kind of like, I was like, would he hang out in the same part of town as her? Like, yeah, because I don't know. That's always kind of a movie contrivance.
Yeah, you got the.
I like this outfit. I like a cardigan.
I like the sound of the marker this makes. Yeah. It's great. Good. Yeah. Yeah, she's looks good in a cardigan. There's a lot of I know several people who really don't think she's an attractive woman, and I wish they would.
Wrong.
I totally agree. Anyone who doesn't think that should watch this movie.
Yeah, and also I like that she's like she's not conventionally attractive. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, she's gorgeous, but she's got like the lines,
Yeah, jowls.
Yeah. Also, this is such a good moment too, because she like does that like little offering, and then he gets her in trouble for having like a torn up skirt. I'm like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I wonder how he would have dealt with like the lady ripping the car seat with her crutches and crash.
Right. Yeah, this scene too, right? Yeah. So they're like eating awkwardly.
What the fuck is that painting, by the way?
I think it's like a nun. I don't know. It looks like the Invisible Man almost.
Yeah, it does look like the Invisible Man.
But yeah, it's like they're eating like awkwardly hunched over the coffee table, but then in the next shot, which I think you actually have, there's a fucking dining room table right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, why
are there so many grapes?
Why are there? I mean, grapes slap. Have you ever had like a cold grape on a hot day?
Yes, but why is there they're already drinking wine.
Yeah, I don't like wine and cheese course maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Takes out the picture.
Oh, just viscerally uncomfortable.
Men, do not do this haircut.
Also, don't do polo shirts. You're better than that. It's 2025. We can do better. Yeah, that's the mouse moment that you just showed too, where he takes the mouse out.
Whatever this is, I want it.
The fucking hair. Oh, it's like one of those those old timey intercoms.
But it looks like it's like got a maze on it or something. Like I just love the design.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Again, the magical, ever-changing hallway.
Yeah. And then this scene.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Because like what I like about this sort of part sequence of the movie is that a very realistic thing for a lot of people, especially when they enter into their first kinky relationship, is there's like this new relationship energy. There's this new, like, it's exciting and we're boning every single night. And like, we're doing scenes every time we get together. But at some point, like, it's just another relationship. There's going to be nights where you watch Netflix. There's going to be nights where one of you has to work late or whatever. And so I love that they show this frustration, this new kinkster coming into this lifestyle. And she gets frustrated. She gets frustrated that like she's not getting it from him all the time. And he's frustrated with her for like wanting it. And so there's like this really interesting back and forth dynamic that is really realistic and really authentic to the like new kinkster experience. And I think that's really cute.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have to probably cruise through to get to some of these, but this other polka dot dress, I mean,
oh, I love this. Gorgeous. Is my favorite outfit in the movie. Yeah. I have a blouse like that because of this movie.
Yeah, this is a great fit on her.
So good.
And
God, this scene. Oh, every time I'm like, God damn.
Get some lift on her.
I watched this movie. Like, there's part of me that's like, if I ever got to interview Maggie Gyllenhaal, I'm gonna be like, you guys just actually did it, right? Like, I don't think they faked that. I think that really happened. And I was like, this was before intimacy coordinators. Like, this was before on-set supervision,
Either that or she got some good professional wrestling training, because that's better than some slaps I've seen. And
right.
Then she throws away
the kit. She found the thing. She found the other thing.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
and then there's like the kinky Rocky montage where they're just doing all the like really out there weird shit. Because and that's
I forgot
another
to
thing.
say-
That's like that. Sorry, I'm just going on.
Oh,
And
go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
No, but that's like another thing. That's another thing that like that happens to new kinksters. Is like you want to do it all, you want to try it all, so you start doing like the really weird shit, like I'm gonna be a horse or whatever. And it's like for some people, yeah, that winds up being the thing that they like. But I like that they sort of show this montage of like a little bit more out there stuff, and then by the end they kind of bring it back around to like what the sort of original vibe was.
Yeah, if you're getting into stuff, if you're watching movies, you should start with a Kubrick and maybe a Fellini, then maybe go to like
Yeah. Little
go wild.
Kurosawa.
Yeah.
I said that wrong.
Kurosawa. Yeah.
That's the one. Thank you. Throne of Blood. Oh, it's so good.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh my god, it's Macbeth.
I know, I need to. My someone else was recommending that the other. I really want to. I did a video on this. I don't know if you saw that about there's 5 movies that romantically involve carrots. So this one, It Happened One Night, is part of the genre. It Happened One Night, Secretary, Rushmore, The Lady Offers Bill Murray a Carrot. There's a thing on Netflix.
What about Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Do they? I mean, I didn't know. There's probably
I don't know.
more.
Now I want to go back and watch it. I feel like they do. I feel like there's a moment. He's a rabbit.
It's because it's very famous actually, and It Happened One Night. That's actually he offers her a carrot. He's one of the guys that they base like Bugs Bunny's personality on. Clark Gable in that movie.
Okay.
So I kind of wonder if that was a reference. There's again, her bedroom in here is so good.
Right. Her little shrine with the desk and the
markers.
So good. So good.
And
this like weird fucking dream sequence. I love this
I
sequence.
loved it, yeah.
It didn't need to be in the movie. Also, the only time in the entire movie that she wears red.
Yeah. This is like, honestly, I would say again for like a lady's perspective, to the extent that like I've heard, women talk about like the way that like they would sort of like fantasize, like the visual imagery. It seems so different. Again, not to be gender reductionist, but from like a dude, it's just like,
Yeah. Well, like the vaginal imagery, like the Georgia O'Keeffe, like,
the flowers
orchid,
blooming.
vaginal, like it works. And I think it's really like tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But this scene is so good because it's also like the shitty boyfriend with like a crappy ashtray.
Yeah.
Right. No, like he's like, ew, he's the garbage one. Like we like the pen that's like up on a literal actual pedestal.
I'd even notice that, but that is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like again,
Absolutely.
the production design, like so much of the storytelling is just little subtle moments like that.
They're on a shitty washer dryer, to your point.
Yeah, because the laundromat, that's where she went on her date with the boyfriend. Like,
yeah, get more texture. I loved all these ladies. Bunch of great fits.
Judgy.
Yeah, and goes to the house.
That scene again, like that's such a good scene because it's like he could have just brought her inside and fucked her, but he doesn't. You got
the spank.
Yeah. And that's that too, again, like that kind of like new kinkster, like trying to replicate it by themselves or like get up, like, the boyfriend is not kinky. I've been there. Like, damn, I just need a little spice.
Yeah.
And they can't pull it off. They can't make it happen.
This, I thought, again, speaking to the impotence thing, like, I thought the metaphor here on the worm was so
Oh, well,
so fascinating.
And again, from like a kink standpoint, that's also the moment where she asks for what she wants.
Yeah.
She purposely is like, here's a worm, fuck you, I want this thing. And then he doesn't give her what she wants. He doesn't give it to her in the way that she expects. And then she's surprised and it works for her. And then she jerks off in a bathroom.
Yeah. And then the lady.
And then
the HR lady's not too happy.
The HR Linda is displeased.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and then we see her. She's doing research. She's learning about herself.
Great book. There is a VHS.
As a dominant/submissive.
Is this a VHS? I think this looks like a VHS case.
I thought it was maybe supposed to be like one of those like cases that has like multiple cassettes, like cassette 1, 2, 3.
You're right. Yeah.
She's listening on a Walkman, but that technology is lost to us here in the future. Yeah. And he writes her the apology letter, trashes the office. They have this big breakup scene.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I can't. Angst.
He puts the light on.
Yeah, puts the light back on.
Yeah.
Angst, so much angst.
Pool tries to replicate it with these other gentlemen.
Yeah, doesn't work.
Tomatoes does not
Which again, very common thing in the kink community. Like you get your taste, and like there's so many people that I know who are like, then I went on Craigslist and I met up with 40 different people because I just wanted more. But like there's a stability to the dynamic. You know, there's a stability to like what they have together. And I love that they also show like not everybody's kink is going to match yours, which I think is really healthy. Like there might be somebody out there who'd love to throw a tomato at a guy, but like that's not her kink, so it doesn't serve her. It doesn't work for her.
Yeah, I hope they find those people find some people.
I do.
You know?
I like to think that they do. I like to think that maybe like HR Linda secretly loves to throw a tomato.
This office I thought was the craziest because like the door's one style, the carpet's like two different styles.
It's wild.
Yeah,
it is a wild office. It makes
looks like
no
they're trying,
sense.
like they took like one piece from every IKEA display from like but like a 90s 1990s RPG IKEA.
And it's like super masculine, you know. But yeah, and then this part.
Yeah,
this is the part, you know, where everybody, you sort of get that, like, what do everybody else think about it type thing. The family's hanging out, supporting her.
That's the director of Longlegs right there, Oz Perkins.
That?
I don't know if, that is, I didn't like Long, so I'm going to criticize Longlegs.
The girl that you just showed with the books, fun fact, she later appeared in, Slings and Arrows. She plays the shitty roommate in season 1 of Slings and Arrows, which is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Like the feminist, woman to woman.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, she reads a really shitty sonnet in season 1 of Slings and Arrows.
The dad
comes to give her his blessing.
Again, I thought that was really good because it kind of like hints at his sort of generational trauma too, where he's like, you know, they didn't go into it because it's not his story, right? But it's like there's enough there. It's like obviously any, you know, if you grow up with traumatic parents or whatever, it's like they probably didn't have an easy time of it themselves. Not that excuses it, et cetera, but you know, they showed it in like such a nice, realistic way.
Yeah, the news.
The news,
like, oh
the
God,
popcorn.
The news. Yeah, people are literally eating
this
popcorn.
Would be me. Yeah, I'd be supportive if I knew about this.
I love it. It's so good.
He brings her the milkshake.
Oh God, and then he takes care of her, and it was so romantic. And he gives her a bath, and it's so nice. He puts her on grass, and he cuts her out of the dress.
Great dress.
And then you finally get a little bit of titties.
And I can't show it, but
justified. It's justified, and you see her scars.
Yeah, against same in Crash. I mean, to the thing about the, you know, sort of
I just want there to be like a reboot of Secretary where it's just a plus size woman. Everything else about the movie stays the same, but like, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I get tired of Hollywood bodies. You know what I mean? Like, remember the kerfluffle about Bridgerton?
I didn't.
Like, oh my God, yeah. Well, because the last season or whatever, she's like a plus size actress, and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Plus size people experience love.
And then
unheard of.
Do you think this is like an unambiguously good ending?
I think it's an unambiguously good ending, and I think it's an ending that tells us what we need to know about them. We know for the future. Mm-hmm. You know, like she literally gives us a knowing look as he like rides into the neighborhood like everyone else. You know, like I love it. It's gorgeous.
I was curious the first time, or not the first time. I mean, when I watched it, I was like, because I rewound it, I was like, I wonder, like, because the other two movies that I think of that end with the fourth wall, Memories of Murder and Lestrada, are sort of like, they're very kind of have more ambiguous, like kind of doomy endings. But this is like fourth wall break, looking to the camera. I'm here. She's like, yeah, okay. I could be your neighbor, right?
Yeah, I could be your neighbor. I'm okay. Like, thanks for listening to my story. Like, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I will, while I'm loading this up, do you have, if people like Secretary, we'll do the last bit for movie references. If people like Secretary, do you have a recommendation of some other movie that you think they might like?
The 1999 cinematic masterpiece, The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
Honestly, who wouldn't?
I've never met a person who likes Secretary that doesn't also like The Mummy, because the Venn diagram is overlapped.
Yeah.
I feel bad that I can't think of anything like really. I feel like I should have come prepared with more recommendations, but like there's not a lot of good positive recommendation or like representations of kink. There's just not.
There's not. I would say so. Yeah, I think I got.
Because it kind of depends. Like, do you want a spicy film, or do you want a film that like has nuance and? Yeah. I'm trying to think. What's the?
If you want to follow along, when Kate and I do our podcast, Conspirators of Pleasure might be the very first episode. Yeah, this is going to be tons of textures, so definitely do that one. And then Stargate is for both of them, because James Spader. I mean, it's just James Spader in a non. I don't think, it's been a while since I watched this. I don't think he kisses anyone's scar or tries to have sex with a wound. Yeah. I could be wrong. He does go through a portal.
I'm looking at there's a really great Substack called Ask a Sub, And she's great. She's so funny. There's one, Love and Leashes is a new one. It's like a K-drama, but it's like
Okay.
a rom-com and it's super cute. Duke of Burgundy is pretty good. But yeah, pretty much across the board, it's interesting because when you look up like kinky movies, like Secretary is always like number one, number two spot
Yeah.
because it's again, I think it's one of the only movies that exists that not only treats the subject matter as like it is a little silly, it is a little goofy. We can, as a kinky person, like I have done kinky shit that is objectively funny, but in the moment I'm like, that's hot, you know, like I'll do a little something. And so yeah, I love that it's respectful. I love that it's nuanced. I love that it shows the power and the, I don't know, just the beauty that exists in kink and how people can really find themselves and find relationships that work in that community.
Yeah. I would recommend, so with the Secretary, I would say the closest thing is actually The Big Sleep, which is my favorite romance, Bogart and Bacall, 1946, because it's, I formerly before Secretary, now I would put Secretary up there. It's the biggest match each other's freak movie I've seen, where like Warren Bacall throughout the whole movie is trying to like say like, oh, you don't want to date me, Humphrey Bogart, like I'm too dangerous, like I'm too this, I'm too that, and he's just like getting more and more turned on the whole movie until he's just bricked up like about to pass out by the end because he's like so in love with her.
Where's the other one? Another two that kind of have that same kind of like brat vibe are His Girl Friday and Philadelphia Story.
Oh,
Both
yeah.
of them, big brat energy in those films.
Throw Bringing Up Baby into there probably as well. I
Yeah.
mean, just if you like that, if you like all that type of stuff.
I love a good Katharine Hepburn brat moment. Also, I have 10 minutes and then I have to go.
Okay,
So
well, I was
you're
trying to get to
10 minutes. I like that we didn't talk about the fits at all. I'm so sorry. I broke.
Oh
your
no, it's
system.
fine. Yeah, it's always my fault. I'm not good at balancing episodes. Yeah, I like.
How are you going to show any stills from this movie? It's all bush and tits.
I try to cut around it.
You need to cut around it a lot.
So we got starting off. It literally opens up with a lady. I like these fits.
I love her garter belt. Like it's
Yeah.
such a choice, and she like wears one for the whole movie too, which is like that's like her like little thing, and I love that for her.
Yeah.
A garter belt is powerful.
This guy in the vest at the work stuff. You know, I can't
Right.
even show. Then it opens up two sex scenes in the first two scenes.
Later we see the camera girl, and she has like jeans that are cut.
Yeah,
like, right
I love
under
that
the
fit.
ass. And I was like, that's a good fit. Like that's sexy.
Viewers, if you see this, you might think that this is just a normal shot, but no, she's about to show him her ass.
Yeah, she's
but
about
I
to
didn't-
hike it. We love a split skirt for like a little garter belt ass moment. It's hot.
Then he's in the crash.
Also, did you notice that the husband had scars? The dead husband has like scars on
Yes.
his hands, which
Yeah.
I think is supposed to imply that he was also a car crash guy.
Everyone in the world is, right? I mean, it's-
everyone in the world
yeah.
is a car crash guy.
And then because she's about to pop one out, just one.
Just one though.
Just one.
Like it's very Renaissance. You know how
Yeah.
like a lot of the Renaissance paintings have like one tit out.
It is absolutely Renaissance.
I
I
have
kind of wonder if
multiple
because I think this guy actually, I want to know, he worked with Ken Russell. I thought he worked with Peter Greenaway, who's known for like doing these like Renaissance inspired shots, but
Yeah, I mean some of them really are. But like also this guy, what's the actor's name who plays
I
Bond?
think it's Elias Codius or Elias
Explain to
Codius.
me why he looks like Stabler from SVU and Quentin Tarantino just ran at each other.
I love this too because like ultimate freak moment. He's just walking in to
Right.
friggin'
And
like-
then James Spader's just like, okay.
yeah. He's not even a
I
medical
thought he was
examiner.
a photographer.
Yeah.
Whoops. What the fuck?
I love it. But he probably has a card, right? Because in this universe, he's probably like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just a
He's got his
I'm
yeah.
into
He's
this.
like, oh, I'm covered. Also, Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Movie just
I-5
about
and
Atlanta traffic.
Tacoma, Seattle.
It's like Baby Driver, but with sex scenes.
Exactly.
Baby Driver, most unrealistic movie about Atlanta that's ever happened. You can't have car chases in Atlanta. Be so for real.
Yeah, I
It's
haven't
impossible.
seen it.
You get 5 minutes. It's great. Baby
Yeah.
Driver. Honestly, I would put for Baby Driver's movie. You should see. It's fantastic, and the soundtrack is a character in the movie, which is one of the only times I've ever seen that done. It's fantastic.
I think I'd be curious because this was filmed in Canada. Cronenberg is Canadian, and I'm pretty sure Greater Toronto area. I think it's the Don Valley Parkway, maybe, or some other thing,
Yeah.
as known for like Atlanta level bad traffic. This is my favorite Elias Codius fit. It looks almost like a bathrobe work suit.
It's like one of those like really
Yeah,
good like
this guy.
mechanic like vintage jumpsuits. Yeah,
Love this guy. I could do this fit. I'm thinking about doing this.
you
fit.
could pull it
Yeah.
off. A members only jacket,
Do the car crash.
right?
Get stopped by some Department of Transportation.
Oh, grown! It's the DOT.
Yeah, and I love that the raise up was so funny. It's such a funny movie. the raising the fist up, and he's like, "No, I'm actually here." Yeah.
It's like the fantastic Mr. Fox moment.
Yeah. Just gonna play this. They go through. He meets the polycube.
Yeah, meets the polycube.
They're watching TV.
They're
I
all
like
just
this.
fucking little weirdos.
They're talking about the Jane Mansfield. There's the.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this character.
This is kind of sick.
I love this character. I have such
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted so much more of her. Like, she's my favorite character because she's like visibly disabled.
Next time you go to a
complex
conference.
disability,
Yeah.
like, and then she's just like, yeah, fuck you. I fuck, and I fuck hard. Like, that's so rare to see a disabled person in a movie who is like sexualized.
Yeah.
Like,
do you cosplay at any of these conferences? Because
I was thinking, I was like, that'd be a good cosplay.
But yeah, it's honestly really, for disability portrayal, it's like
fun fact, when this movie premiered in the UK, a bunch of people fucking hated it. They hated it, and they were trying to get it banned. And one of the things that they tried to do to get it banned was they went to a bunch of disabled people, and they were like, "Isn't this like portrayal offensive?" And all the disabled people were like, "No, what are you talking about? Like, no, this is a great portrayal of like, we have sex, we fuck, we have desire, like we want intimacy." And so like there was a bunch of like butthurt like British film TV censors because like the disability people wouldn't like get mad about it. And I love that. I think it's a gorgeous story.
That's so cool. This scene, they just show up to Jane Mansfield.
Come on in, guys.
He's like, "Oh, you did it without me."
Car guy.
And the car wash scene.
Yeah. Puts the top up.
So textural. And he's watching.
Right. And then the like after effect where like he kind of takes like too much.
Yeah.
Like she's in bed and she like clearly didn't enjoy it as much as she thought she would.
There's
I
a
think
similar shot from Secretary. This is where,
this fucking scene though.
I did like how they, like, you could tell that they really liked, they even made the point of embedding it in the seat. Like they weren't trying to like, it's like, it's in there.
Yeah, it's like sometimes being disabled has disadvantages and stuff like that does happen in real life. Like I have gotten my crutch stuck on shit before, Yeah.
Then he sees it and he's like, "That's hot. That's the hottest."
This is so viscerally uncomfortable. I hate this part. I was like, because in my head I'm like, that's gonna do some damage.
Yeah.
Like you can't just fuck somebody's fucking wound, man.
I'm not here to get involved. It's none of my business.
Like, clearly he's into it. Those are the genes.
Kate has trained me enough to be so open that I'm just accepting, right? So it was friendly. Yeah, these are the great genes, which I thought was also great camera.
They're hot.
And he's back. He's like, "All right, we're getting tatted up now."
This is another like, don't lick. Hi, I'm certified sex educator, Catieosaurus. Do not lick a fresh tattoo.
Yeah, don't
do that. Why don't do that?
If you want to have gay sex in a car and then get ram, if you're both into it,
have all the gay sex you want in the back of whatever car you want, as long as you have consent to be there. But don't lick fresh tattoos.
At these speeds, it's really not that dangerous. So knock yourself out. He goes out. Then it's like,
sweater.
Who did it?
Who could this have been?
But honestly, this is kind of like his Obi-Wan moment though, because I was like, he's like, if you strike me down, and like he's like trying to like show Luke that like, you need to kill me. Because he's like, this is again.
Like, I become a monster.
By the way, this scene probably is like one of the most best shot. Like the lighting in this, like on the highway,
and the
night
red. And the rain.
You know what else this guy shot actually was Empire Strikes Back and
that
Rocky.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, but neither. Like especially with like the lightsaber fight and the Death Star.
Oh yeah.
Like
Cloud City.
See that. You know what I mean?
All that. Yeah.
That lighting.
Yeah, the lighting.
And then again, because he didn't have consent, so like a bunch of other people are affected. Like all those people.
It's the world though, Yeah.
It's
like they're all.
There's
probably
like,
people jacking off in there. That's in my head.
I love it when they fall into the buses.
Yeah.
It's like the how the ongoing joke about how there should be a show about like superhero insurance.
Yeah.
Like it's like that. Like just this fucking car crash people.
Then these two ladies, this nice happy ending for them.
We get male, we get female, we get male. Like we get the
male
broad
wound,
range.
male car. Yeah, we get car. We get
there is like
bus.
I wasn't surprised. I was kind of surprised. I really thought that a dick was gonna go into the gas.
Yeah.
I really thought
tailpipe.
But it never really happened. They kind of hump cars.
Yeah. If they ever let me make movies, they're not going to be allowed to be showed like at this budget. No way they're going to be in theaters because there's going to be so much full frontal male nudity because it's just been so.
la, la, la.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you just
Hop
can't.
around.
Yeah, it's a wuss move to not show it.
5 instances of full bush, not a single dick in the whole movie.
Yeah,
Disappointing.
it's very
And there's a gay
disappointing.
sex scene. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, come on, come on.
Especially
least-
like because this is
yeah.
like a male perspective, like a male fan, like how visual stereotypically gender reductionist men are.
Yeah.
Like there'd be some dicks out. Like if this was
Yeah,
really
there
from
would be
James Spader perspective,
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
talks about it too. She's like,
His
oh, I
dick
wonder.
would be out. Like I was surprised we never saw his dick. There was
Yeah.
like a really like a respectful towel in the hospital that honestly, like at the very beginning of the movie, that felt like an afterthought. It felt like they were gonna do dick, and then at the last minute, James
Yeah.
Spader was like, maybe not. Like,
Well, they, and they talk about like him and his wife when they're in the scene after the car wash, or it's before then when he's like, oh, is like, I wonder, like, don't you wonder if his dick is scarred or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
I
it's
really
like,
thought
show
we were
it.
gonna see-
It's Chekhov's scarred dick, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
I was like-
you can't talk about it, not bring it
Yeah.
out.
yeah, I was like, let us see the dick. I wonder if it got cut. I wonder if there's like a director's cut somewhere where there's just like dicks.
The studio was like, all right,
flapping
buddy,
in
we
the
went
breeze.
with
They're
you
like,
this far,
Bush
but
is
like,
fine, but we draw the line at male
Yeah.
genitalia. And then
gonna pull
and then they fuck in a car crash and nobody gives a shit, and that's the end of the movie.
talk about an all-time credit stunt driver on Crash. That would be like
Right.
the credit I would want more
Oh
than
my
anything.
God.
And
Right.
shout out Canada, because this was they helped produce this, the Canadian government. So I'm pretty sure, allegedly.
Love that.
So
Love that.
because they have better film funding. So shout out.
Canada.
All right, Kate, this has been so fun.
It's been so great. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me. I hope to do this again. We need to make a list of all the movies that we talked about.
I got him. Yeah.
Can I chill for myself really quick before I go?
Yes, please.
Hey, if you liked listening to me talk in a slightly more educational capacity, is most of my content. This is a little freaky. I got a little real in this one. But yeah, you can check me out. I'm Catieosaurus across all corners of the internet. I'm the host of the podcast Sorry I Missed This on understood.org, where I talk about ADHD and its impact on relationships and intimacy and communication. It's something I'm particularly proud of because it is a podcast by and for women with ADHD. I also occasionally contribute to Playboy magazine as as the first Playboy advisor in history that specifically talks about neurodivergency and disability, and I will die proud of that. My podcast, Katie and Eric's Infinite Quest, is coming back from hiatus next week. Very exciting.
Excellent.
And if you would like to read my book about ADHD and building systems and structures that work for you, you can pre-order the ADHD Field Guide, where my dog just knocked over a pile of other stuff. You can pre-order it wherever you get your books. I would love it if you would support your local indie bookstore at bookshop.org. And if you want to go follow me on YouTube, I'm this close to 100K. I'm gonna put my play button right there. So
Yes.
if you want to go follow me, I'm doing more long form content. I'm starting a kinky crafting thing. I'm going to do a series about therapy and neurodivergency. So it's a little mixed bag of everything. And if you want to check out my spicy content, you can do that on schmonlyschmans.schmom.
Awesome. Well, Kate, thank you so much. This has been super helpful. Super,
This is so
super
rad.
educational, fun.
I'm sorry to podcast and run, but I got to go pick up my meds.
No, yeah, not at all. Yeah. Thank you. And everyone, I hope you're having a good day. We'll see you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here. Okay, bye.